listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you, Miller and Moulton, on this Tuesday? Hope your week got off to a good start, and we thank you for being with us here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Collared shirt again.
We've got a meeting.
Yeah, it's true. We do.
We've got a lunch today.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm just saying. And usually Wednesday's a golf day for you, too. Could this be 3 collared shirt days in a row?
It's going to be 5.
Whoa!
Because I've got a little meeting on Thursday that I've got to handle.
Man.
Some personal business, and then golf on Friday.
Wow.
Big week, David.
It's a
big week.
Huge week.
Wife's not going to be happy with the amount of laundry she's going to have to do this week.
So wife does the laundry, huh?
And will not allow me to.
Ah, one of those. See, it's pretty much that way with me in my house. I'm the laundry guy.
You a good folder?
I'm a great folder.
Did you ever work in a pro shop?
No.
I thought maybe that's where you got your early experience folding golf shirts in a pro shop.
My mother taught me to fold at a very early age. All right.
My wife does not like my folding. Hence how I'm out on laundry.
Well, that makes no sense. In theory, you could do the laundry and then you could just put the basket in front of her and go, since you don't like my folding, here you go.
Problem is, I'll try to do it. I try to surprise her, if you will, and do it when she comes home and all the laundry's done. And then I either don't fold things right, I don't put them away in the right spots, or I have been guilty of in the past of leaving that load in the dryer.
Well,
and that right there is the one that sets her off.
I've done that too. Laundry and dishes. That's my role in the house.
Yeah, hers is laundry, mine's the rest. And I'm okay with that. I'm a house husband.
You wear a collared shirt around the house?
Heels, too. One of those French maid outfits, but I don't want to reveal too much.
I got to get that visual out of my head.
So does everybody else that just drove into a tree.
Miller, hopefully they haven't backed out of the driveway yet. Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. Thanks so much for being with us. Hey, there's a couple of things going on right now in the NFL, which I like because, well, let's face it, we're a couple of guys in our 50s. And, when you get to a certain age and you're on the back nine of life, you get a little nostalgic for things that took place on the front nine of life. There's 2 things going on in the NFL that kind of reminds me of, well, the NFL 20, 30 years ago. A, we got a couple of quarterback competitions. We never have that anymore.
No, we do not.
So that's, Carolina, Seattle, we actually, competing. Okay. And you know what we've had in the last couple of days? We've had some good training camp fights.
Well, it started with a little one in Buffalo when Josh Allen decided to jack a defensive lineman who bumped him.
Right.
And
don't you touch me.
And from then on, it's like everybody watched NFL Network and said, no, hold my beer. And yesterday, the Giants got after it.
Yes.
That's what bad teams are supposed to do when there are a lot of jobs out there for starting jobs to make the team jobs. This is what used to happen in the NFL.
Yes. And the whole coach getting upset. This is what bad teams do. Yeah, that's why you got the job. They're a bad team. It's your job to make them a good team. It ain't going to happen overnight. I love me a little training camp because, come on, there are helmets and shoulders. Nobody's going to get hurt in one of these things. I mean, worst thing you do, grab the guy's face mask, you pull his neck down, and he gets upset and he tackles you. Everybody jumps on top of piles and, you're pulling guys out by limbs and face masks and what have you. But
now we'll see if they can keep that same energy once they have the scrimmages against other teams.
They will. They're pros. They'll bring it. Okay, but I love me a good training camp fight. I really do. I know the coaches hate it, but they don't always.
It's your North Dallas 40 where you sit there and everybody's looking at Landry going, all right, when are we going to blow this dead?
Right.
All right, that's enough, boys. That's enough.
Landry's smiling. The coaches were about ready to jump in, and he says, hold on a second. Just let them go a little bit. Yeah. I love me a good training camp fight. So I don't know, just, some things to pass the time.
Well, what caught me, David, and I usually don't go here, and I'm fearful of going here this early, but it is Kevin Durant and the association.
Whoa, hold on.
Whoa.
Hold on. 606.
It has nothing to do necessarily with the NBA. It has to do with the fact that everybody is going to take the league's, most people are not going to take Kevin Durant's side with this, because Kevin Durant's walked into the owner's office and said, essentially, get rid of the GM or get rid of the coach, or you're getting rid of me.
Right. They were me.
And there isn't one of us alive that wouldn't like to walk into the owner's office and say, get rid of the two bosses or I'm out of here. Most of us should have the utmost respect for what Kevin Durant did yesterday. And yet nobody will. I mean, come on. You're getting up for work today, and maybe all of you just love your boss and your boss's boss. That could be the way, and I hope for you that it is. It's a great way to go to work.
Uh-huh.
In fact, in this act, I like both bosses that we work for. They're both really nice guys. Makes coming to work every morning a lot better than what it's been in some of the alternatives, David.
We have bosses.
Work with me, Moulton. Could you just work with me? It's a flippin' monologue. I know you handle these most days,
no.
but just work with me a
No,
little
we
bit.
have. That was a little
Yeah.
joke. I know we have bosses. In fact, we're meeting with them. Hence the collared shirts.
Right.
Right.
So, but in other places, I have wanted to walk into ownership and say, if you would just get these two out of my way, we could make a lot of good things happen around here.
Okay. I'm going to challenge you here. You said, and I quote, I have wanted to go in to the office and say. You mean to tell me you've never said it? You've never said it.
No.
Really?
I've never demanded someone be fired or I'm quitting. Never in my life.
All right. I've never demanded it. But
I've complained about it. I've complained to others, but come on.
I have been in two meetings in which I have looked at ownership and I have said, listen, there's only one way this is going to work out. I'm just telling you right now. There's only one way this is going to work out. And I'm fine whichever way you go.
I very rarely have met with ownership. To be brutally honest, most of my jobs, the highest up I could get was to the boss. I didn't have access to the person who owned the place. So that's why I have admiration for Kevin Durant going to the owner, sitting down and saying, these two guys couldn't suck enough. Get them out of here.
Now, for the record, I'm 0-2.
No surprise there.
No, I knew it as I was saying it. Now, I will say, in a way, I'm either 0-1-1, 0-2 with an asterisk, because the second place that I did it, they got rid of me first, but they got rid of the other two. It took about 6 months, but the skids were greased. So we were all gone. None of us made the Christmas party, so to speak. But I went first.
Yeah, we've documented the number of times that we've lost jobs on this show, so we don't need to walk down that lane again.
It's a big number. It's a really big number.
And I have taken on coworkers that's cost me my job.
Right.
But I've never taken on the boss.
You've never met with higher management in which there was someone, a level in between you and who you were meeting with. And Durant basically said, you have to choose.
Right.
All right. I just was playing, forecaster. Let me tell you how this is going to play out. Both times.
Yeah. I've never had those meetings. You've had the ability to get a lot higher up the food chain than I have in your life.
Well, but it also means I'm a lot more charming than you.
Certainly one adjective we could use.
Right. Well, just trying to spin it in a positive way.
Well, that's good.
Right.
But I don't think anybody will be taking Kevin Durant's side. Most will come out harshly against Kevin Durant. How dare he plays for he got that coach hired. What's he thinking?
Well, yes. I mean, Yes.
He quite literally got everything he wanted.
Yes.
And he
asked
doesn't
for
like
it.
it.
Yeah.
And now he wants another one. So
Here-
who's the most important person in the Brooklyn Nets franchise?
Kevin
The
Durant.
GM, the coach, or Kevin Durant?
Kevin Durant. He's pointing fingers at himself then.
All right. Here's the rich irony about this story. He met with the owner. Remember, he requested a trade on June 30th.
Right.
So obviously 5+ weeks and nothing's happening. So they meet in London on the 1-year anniversary of him signing the 4-year, $198 million extension, which kicks in this coming season. He hasn't even earned a dime of it yet. All right. 1 year later, after professing his undying love, have the music playing in the background. Forever love. All right. 1 year later, he's like, let me tell you, you want to keep me? Fine. Everybody between you and me got to go. Just so you know. That's how much this organization sucks. By the way, when do the checks start? Okay, good. It's just asking.
So I have a quiet admiration for Kevin Durant.
He went up a half a notch.
He did. He did. I think it's hysterical.
Oh, it's funny. I mean, and let's be honest. I mean, for Miller and Moulton to have an appreciation of this story. I mean, two guys who have been fired like a dozen times between the two of us. I mean, this is rich.
Right, because the only choice now they're down to fire more coaches or get rid of him or make him stick with this. Any of which are appetizing to me.
The owner, by the way, came out, took to Twitter last night when the story broke. I mean, apparently, the owner kept this on the inside. I'm guessing Durant spoke to somebody and then somebody reported it. So when it came out late yesterday, the owner took to Twitter within an hour and said, yeah, I fully support Steve Nash and Sean Marks there, the coach and the GM. So you know how well this is going over.
Like a lead balloon, David.
Right. Kevin Durant, I'm a superstar. Joe Tsai, I'm a billionaire.
I sell jerseys.
Yeah. He's looking at him going, yeah, when you get to be as rich as me, nobody tells me what to do.
Miller and Moulton, not ever able to tell anybody what to do.
We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe. David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. What's really fun is if you took a composite NFL schedule, weeks 1 through 17, or 18 now, and circled winners on that, and then went and did every team's schedule,
Right.
you wouldn't have the same things.
Look at this. They are high on the Patriots here. You're not going to split with no. Yeah. Come on now. I think they're being generous.
But it's not crazy. Okay, they got to beat Minnesota, but losing to the Colts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They got them winning 4 in a row there, but it's Lions, Browns.
Right. No, it's a weak spot.
Yeah. Jets and somebody else was there.
Adam, at one point in time, he had Durant, Kyrie, and Harden on the same team. I mean, they built them a super team. Morning, Johnny Mac.
Now we do the Big Ten here.
I think this is a huge story. Besides my bias for being, a media goober, I think this is a monster story. It's huge repercussions. It's a gamble. What will it mean for the 4-letter network? What will it mean for the SEC?
Well, and what does it mean for the next 2 years on ESPN when they're showing all these Big Ten games before the deal runs out?
Well, deal runs out in a year.
Or one, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just
this the
year.
last year. This is the last year. It starts in 23.
Well, this would.
What I'm curious about is what's going to happen at 3:30.
Right.
Because
they've got 2
CBS
more
is
years.
2 years, and the Big Ten new contract starts in a year. So is CBS just going to walk away from the SEC? Is this going to end up being CBS's last year, the SEC? I see, from a business standpoint, if I'm CBS, there's no way I'm walking away from the last year. I'm paying $55 million for the whole year.
Right.
The SEC championship game alone is worth $100. I mean,
How many years has the Iron Bowl been on CBS?
Well, not as many as you think, because it wasn't the game they aired for a while.
I mean,
They aired this Florida State game for a while when they could.
well, also they made a miscalculation in 2014, and the Iron Bowl actually aired on ESPN because you can only air a team's games 5 times in a season. That's the contract. And so usually what would happen is if CBS showed Florida or Alabama X number of times, they would then ask and say, hey, can we show them a 6th time? And usually it was granted. And then a side deal was made. Maybe CBS would give something to ESPN, or money would exchange hands or something. But in 2014, a bit of a divide had started to occur between CBS and the SEC. And so when they scheduled one too many Alabama games, they then called up and said, hey, can we run the Iron Bowl? And ESPN said that the SEC, under no circumstances will you let them run the Iron Bowl. And the SEC said, okay. And that was the beginning of when you knew something was going on.
Wow.
So the Iron Bowl in 2014 was on ESPN. And it was like 50-something to 40-something. It was a ridiculous game.
Sure, ESPN loved to have that.
Sure.
So you know how recently the Angels, they had 7 home runs and lost?
Yeah.
Did you know that on June 8th, 1989, the Pirates scored 10 runs in the first inning and lost?
Nice. Love the crying fan shots.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. A handful, maybe 2 handfuls at most, of spots left in the Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit featuring Dr. Roto. So go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up. The event starts at 7, but the doors open at 6. And remember, you're getting food and drink out of this deal. So have dinner. Miller and Moulton will be there. Shoot the breeze. And then Dr. Roto will helicopter in. Kind of like Nick Saban into a high school football practice when he's recruiting a kid. Roto will just, land in the parking lot, 6:58.
And he doesn't have a helicopter. He'll actually just hover over from his house and do this.
And at 7 o'clock, we're dropping the puck on the Fantasy Football Summit presented by Clutch Vodka. Hey, the first college football poll's out.
And guess who's number 1?
It's a shock. It's a shock coming off their rebuilding season of 13-2, losing in the national championship game. It's Alabama. It's number 1. Ohio State's number 2.
Wow.
I know. Hey, Georgia's 3rd.
Holy cow. This is crazy.
Wait for it. Clemson's 4th.
My goodness. How on God's green earth can we ever figure these polls out?
Do you remember back in the day? We used to have Gary Danielson on the show weekly, and Gary will come on this year semi-regularly. I'll lean on him a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'll ask nicely. And so Gary comes in, and when he used to come in with the yellow notepad, you and I would look at one another and go, uh-oh. And this particular week, he really wanted to talk. We didn't even get the intro out. Welcome back, joining us now. He's just like, guys, can I read you something? And he starts rattling off a top 10 poll and then says to us, guess the year. And so we guessed like 3 to 5 years before when he was sitting in the studio here and rattling off the poll. He said, no, that was from 1973. And like 8 of the top 10 were basically the 8 of the top 10 today. So Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan.
Michigan's rated way too high.
I agree.
Way too, and that's not my anti-Michigan bias. They're rated way too high.
A&M 7. I think that's way too high from where they'll finish. They have a very tough schedule this year. Utah 8.
Might be rated too low.
By the way, first time the Gators will be an underdog in their season opener since pre-Spurrier, 89. This will be the first time the Gators are an underdog in their home/season opener. 8th-ranked Utah. This according to the coaches poll. This is the USA Today coaches poll. Oklahoma 9, Baylor 10, which is interesting because Baylor was picked to win the Big 12 this year by the Big 12 coaches and media. But nationally, Oklahoma edges Baylor out. One Florida school ranked, Miami, 17th.
And they'll end up a lot higher than 17.
You think so?
I do.
A team that's ranked 19th is my sleeper in the ACC. Just throwing it out there. I think the ACC this year, by the way, going to be sneaky good. I do. I think it's a lot stronger than it was last year. A lot stronger. Wake Forest is preseason 19. It's my sleeper in the ACC. They bring just about everybody back. And they were pretty salty last year. Just saying.
Who do they bring back?
Just about everybody.
Thank you very much.
But, we were talking in the open before, you professed your undying love for Kevin Durant and his behavior in which demanding everybody be fired and just hand the franchise over to me.
To me, yes.
Right. I'll make the decisions from here. Thank you very much. But before that, we were talking about some of the things going on in the NFL that we like because it reminds us of days gone by. And, well, a poll, Mark, a poll. Because what I'm wondering is, in 4 years, when college football has a completely different looking playoff, which now is clearly going to be either 12 or 16. I mean, that's how big it's going to be. Everybody's now pretty much in agreement that, oh, no, we're going to double digits. We ain't messing around with this 6 and 8 crap.
Yeah, I would be stunned, particularly with the news coming out of the Big Ten's television deal that is going to hit the presses here in the next, 28, 24, 48 hours in the billions, or at least billion plus. They can't look at that, David, and say, what we need is fewer teams in the playoff.
Right. But my question to you is, there are a lot of things about this sport that is changing. And some people are comfortable with it and some people are not. But, Mark, something that has been a part of this sport forever is the significance of the polls. I mean, the fact that this is a major sport in this country and polling is a big part of it. Will the polls still have a role in this sport going forward when we're going to have 12 and 16 teams? I mean, who cares who's ranked 5th and who's ranked 9th? They're obviously both going to be in the damn playoff. Who cares?
Boy, it's a hell of a point. Because you and I don't care about polls the way the rest of people do. We understand their importance. We hate the fact that they even come out before mid-October.
And we know why they do. It's so we talk about it and generate some interest. But the polling is significant. 4 versus 5. And then if we kept the playoff small, potentially seeding, whether you rank someone 3rd or 4th. Even we've had the significance of it when we've only had 4. As to where they were going to line up 1 through 4 in the matchups.
The only thing I would say, David, is that they still poll college basketball, and people are still, I don't want to say enamored by the poll, but pay attention to who's ranked where. So I don't think the polling will go away because it's still a big part of college basketball, and it certainly isn't necessary in that sport.
And that is done, however, merely just to create interest. It doesn't have any significance, if you know what I mean.
None whatsoever.
I mean, very, very rarely is the case of somebody who is nationally ranked that does not make the tournament.
No, but teams that are nationally ranked number 1 sometimes aren't the number 1 overall seed.
Right.
Sometimes teams that are ranked 3 and 4 don't get 1 seeds for whatever reason.
But I'm just wondering if this is also one of the many changes that is going to happen to college football, whether or not polling essentially goes away, at least in terms of having any significance in the sport. It has had great significance in this sport going all the way back to black and white days in the Eisenhower and Truman administrations. It's been important. I mean, for the longest time, it determined the national championship was polling.
And it still has, in a large way, determines our thoughts going forward on teams because polling still matters in the slightest way because the committee doesn't deviate too much from what the polls say.
I mean, didn't polling separate the 3-way tiebreaker like 15 years ago in the Big 12 South between Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech?
Well, it wasn't the Auburn year they went undefeated. They couldn't get past 3 because they were ranked too low to start the season.
Right. And USC and Oklahoma were ranked 1 and 2 basically all year. There was nothing Auburn could do to get above 3. Penn State lost a national championship because Indiana scored 2 late touchdowns against them when they were up 3 touchdowns. Jopa took his starters out. Indiana tacked on 2 late touchdowns in the final 6 minutes. People took a look at the score and said, Penn State only beat Indiana by 6. We're going to drop them from 1 to 2. And Nebraska stayed number 1 for the rest of the year. All right, polling's been a big part of this sport. I think it's about to go away. Miller and Moulton. We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
How about this? Is the Big Ten better off without ESPN?
We can do that.
That's a poll question. It's always nice. Paul, what may have happened there, I was flipping through the channels over the weekend and ran into Mark, you'll love this, a Pac-12 classic game in 1994 between Colorado and Texas on the Pac-12 network. Yeah. 94, Colorado and Texas. Right. Colorado's what, at least 15 years, almost 20 away from joining the Pac-12? Right. So, and it was Keith Jackson and Bob Greasy on the call. And so, yes, I did watch a drive. I just humored myself and said, I'm going to watch this.
You know who's bummed today? Nestler.
Why is that?
I think he'd rather do SEC than Big Ten.
Well, but, unfortunately, we knew,
I know.
we've known for 20 months that it was ending. He is from Minnesota, though.
Yeah, he ain't even doing a lot of Gophers games.
No. He's really good friends with Alvarez, though.
Is he?
Yeah. Morning, AJC, JDJ.
A lot of.
It is 3 J's. Oof, that's a lot. KW, why do you have such negative vibes for the 4-letter network? like Jimmy Bird. It is great that ESPN is out. Now, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I mean, we all have to acknowledge they are the worldwide leader in sports. I mean, they are the biggest damn deal in this country in sports, right? I mean, we're not arguing that, are we? And so you think it's better for a conference that they're not associated with them? I don't disagree, but it is interesting. You know, 5.5 weeks, and I'm just, this morning was the first time I looked at my hair and said, you know, I'm going to need a haircut soon. That's how short they did me.
You don't need one yet.
No, I said soon. I have a feeling I'm missing something. So if I miss something in this, feel free, okay?
Sure.
I think I'm missing something.
$15 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Magic numbers, by the way. 2 days until the Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit. Your headliner, Dr. Roto. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up. Handful of spots remain. 18 days away from week 0. 18. 3 weeks Thursday, 23 days away, week 1, Pitt, West Virginia, beginning that 5-day college football extravaganza. And 4 weeks Thursday, 30 days away from Bills Rams at SoFi. Huh?
So I have a question for you. I know you've had a lot going on, around the house here the last couple of weeks, getting stuff ready, doing different things.
Right.
Do you ever break into extravaganza at home for no reason? Because you seem to like to say it so much on this show that I'm wondering, cleaning up things around the house or just doing things, and you just look at the wife and go, it's an extravaganza.
No, it's one of those deals in which I said it during the show and just decided, you know what, I'm going to stick with it.
And I have no problem with it.
I think it'll go away once Pitt and West Virginia happens on September 1st, because I've only used extravaganza for the 5-day week 1 college football, happening. So once week 1 comes and goes, I've got no more extravaganza. And what else am I going to use it for? You can't use extravaganza more than once a year. And I used it with week 1 of college football. So I have to retire it for the rest of 2022. Once week 1 happens.
Unless because of week 1, we have a food and dining extravaganza as well.
You can use that. Okay. Now, if you see something and you feel it is an extravaganza, then I can jump on the bandwagon and go, Mark, I love a good extravaganza.
Fair enough.
So I will retire it once week 1 of the college football season comes and goes.
Good to know.
Yep. Time now for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting 5 on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Like, sometimes this is really good, but it is not an extravaganza. There was a really big story that broke early yesterday evening. John Oran, Sports Business Journal, the first to report that, yeah, the Big Ten's dotting the I's and crossing their T's on their new TV deal. Don't know whether or not they're going to get to $100 million per school, which would be $1.6 billion a year. But it looks as if it's going to be Fox with the noon football games, CBS with the 3:30 football games, and NBC in prime time. Mark, that seems to leave out a certain network.
Let's see. Fox.
Right.
CBS.
Correct.
NBC.
Right. Peacock comes along with NBC.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Who's P?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That seems to leave that 4-letter network out of the equation, David.
Yes, it does, Mark. And the belief is that this includes basketball, which I find very interesting. I want to know, if true, whether or not the Big Ten ultimately said to ESPN, no, you'll get nothing and you'll like it, or whether or not ESPN said, well, if you're not going to let us in football, then stick it to you. We're not interested in your hoops. Because I actually think it would benefit the Big Ten to still be on the 4-letter network for hoops. But Big Ten, by the way, has had a deal with ESPN since 1982, which is damn near the entire existence of the 4-letter network. The Big Ten has had a deal with ABC since the Lyndon Johnson administration in the mid-'60s. This will be the final year of Big Ten football on ABC/ESPN, the 2022 season, because the new Big Ten TV deal begins in the fall of 23. Let me ask you, Big Ten making a mistake?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I mean, I'd like to go into much further detail with this. I mean, we could do some of it now because it wasn't a huge sports day yesterday. But I think this is a monster story. This is more than a 1, 2, 3 year story. This is big picture. This is essentially setting the stage for at least a generation of how our sports is going to be distributed. And who watches what and why.
And how it's consumed.
Yes.
How it's presented to us.
This is a really big story when you think about what the 4-letter network has done, good and bad, for certain conferences. I mean, ESPN is credited for making Big East basketball. Now, I know that was the 80s, but they were given credit, and deservedly so.
Big Monday was a big deal.
Yes, and the Big Ten wanted on board.
Right.
It's like, hey, can we follow the Big East game at 7? You know, and Wednesday, by the way, when you're doing it again, can we do it again at 9? And if there's any way you could give us the first game occasionally, we'd love that. Yeah, big deal. They've done a lot of good. Fox is also the Big Ten network, and FS1, obviously. Fox owns 60% of the Big Ten network. So this is where you're going to see your Big Ten football beginning next year, if all the reports, because everybody else jumped in the pool after John Oran's report. Noon, Fox. And they'll also have games on FS1 and Big Ten network, which will include, I think, a Friday night game on Big Ten network. And then CBS at 3:30. NBC will get a primetime game. There was a report a couple days ago that said NBC is going to treat the Big Ten and Saturday night the way they treat the NFL and Sunday night. They're going to go all in. They're going to make it a big deal.
That's a lot of inventory to provide 3 quality games a week.
Well, they got 16 teams.
Well,
I know.
Does it mean 18 or 20 down the road? I mean, that's a lot of quality inventory to fulfill each week.
Yep.
Think about how many you've been doing this SEC on CBS
since 06
for a long time.
Yep.
There's at least 2 weeks a year that you're coming to me in August going, all right, what game would you do October 22nd?
Right.
What game would you do November 16th? We're between Auburn and Mississippi and South Carolina and Florida. What would you do?
Right.
So you're trying to stack 3 games. It's not.
But you know, I've always said that there are more than enough games to do it right so that ESPN can get one really good game every week and CBS can get a highlight game at 3:30. But the SEC never sat down with the schools and said, guess what? We're going to have to rearrange some schedules. I know you're used to playing certain teams in certain weeks. Don't know what to tell you. We've got television. We got to move some games around. My guess is the Big Ten's going to be willing to do that.
I agree with you.
And if
it will
they
take some work.
And if they do, I think it can work. But here's also what you need if you're the Big Ten, just like the SEC has needed it. You need more than just one or two teams. You do. Because obviously everybody wants to televise Ohio State every week. And Fox can't get them 12 times. And CBS can't get them 12 times and what have you. And so, but that's the number one draw in the sport, by the way. Ohio State's the number one television draw in the sport. So if you think that ESPN and CBS have been fighting over Alabama games, you wait to see this fight.
The other thing that I will find interesting going forward is, look, at the fact of the matter is Fox isn't doing this without getting USC on at noon once in a while.
Of course. But this is where also, if you're the Big Ten, it'd be nice if Michigan could be Michigan again. If Penn State and James Franklin could take it up even a half a notch more. Got to be a top 10 team every year. This is where you need 3-4 top 10, top 12 teams consistently every year. Because like you said, you got to put one top 10 team on all three networks. Okay, we'll give these guys Fox, we'll give these guys CBS, we'll give these guys NBC. You've got a top 10 team on every week. That's what you need. You can't have the ACC from last year when you were down.
And really, when you have Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and USC, you should be able to pull this off.
Right. Never.
Then all you're asking is Wisconsin, Michigan State, Minnesota. You need one of them a year to be relevant if those four are.
Right. So, but this will be the last year. And reportedly, it also means basketball.
So find the CBS Sports Network on your cable box because you'll need to find it for Big Ten basketball.
Well, make sure FS1, Big Ten Network, and Peacock. All right, there may be some stuff on Peacock.
Yep.
By the way, the preseason USA Today coaches poll came out yesterday. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Notre Dame 5, Michigan 6, which is interesting. Miami 17. NBA, Kevin Durant reportedly met with Brooklyn Nets owner Joe Tsai, and they met in London, and Durant said, yeah, here's the deal, me or the head coach and GM. But those guys are idiots. Last night, when the story broke, the owner publicly threw his support behind the idiot coach and general manager, Steve Nash and Sean Marks. The irony is Durant made his second trade request on the one-year anniversary of him signing a 4-year, $198 million extension. That is rich, literally. NFL news, the Jets fear that big offensive tackle Mekhi Becton suffered a second major right knee injury. There's already a report that's saying he is likely to miss the season. This is turning out to be a bust of a pick. Dolphins reportedly, we talked about this yesterday, that they're deep at wide receiver. Some teams are not, like the Bears. And reportedly, the Dolphins have made Preston Williams and Lyndon Bowden available. And a team like the Bears, and even the Cowboys for that matter, are kicking the tires and talking about giving up a 6th and or 7th round pick for these guys.
Boy, you're Preston Williams. You're just, come on, Dallas, pull the trigger. I don't want to go to Chicago.
Major League Baseball, Aaron Judge, got football on the brain. Aaron Judge's 44th home run. Yankees snap a 5-game losing streak, beat Seattle 9-4. Mariners are the 6th seed, but they're tied in the loss column with the Baltimore Orioles. The O's hit 4 homers, beat Toronto 7-4. Baltimore's a game out of the playoffs. Tied in the loss column for the 6th seed with the Mariners, who haven't made the playoffs in over 20 years. Could you imagine Seattle, they're going to make the playoffs. And they get edged out by a team that's lost over 105 games each of the last 5 seasons.
Trust the process, David. Trust the process.
By the way, going back to the Yankees, Matt Carpenter broke his left foot, fouling a ball off it last night. He'll miss at least a month, and they're worried he might miss the rest of the year. He's been a nice lefty stick, has Matt Carpenter been. Mets have won 4 in a row. They beat the Reds 5-1. Their lead is a full 7 in the East. Cubs doubled up Washington 6-3. And the Cubs informed Jason Hayward, listen, you're going to make $23 million next year, but you ain't going to do it here. We're going to cut you loose. Good luck. Hayward remembered for giving the speech during that 12-minute rain delay in between the bottom of the 9th and the top of the 10th in Game 7 of the 2016 World Series. He rallied the team after blowing the late lead, and they went out, scored 2 runs and won, and Hayward given credit for that. So, I mean, he was a bust of it. 8 years, $184 million was the contract.
Ouch.
He's remembered for his speech.
Yeah, that's
Ended the curse, though. Jinx, Billy Goat, whatever.
right.
So, Giants shut out the Padres 1-0. San Diego's lost 5 straight. They've had 23 straight scoreless innings. They had 41,000 on a Monday night. San Diego is all in on the Padres.
Yeah, the Padres need to start being all in on the Padres, David.
Because guess what they did last year about this time?
Tanked.
And they get Juan Soto and Josh Bell. And what are they doing right now?
They're not playing very well, David.
No,
Lost 5 in a row.
Right. Mm-hmm. Angels shut out the A's 1-0. 2 very impressive stats from this game. 5,440 in attendance in Oakland. The game took 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Whew.
Arizona held the Pirates to 3 hits, beat Pittsburgh 3-0. And that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
See if I got this right. When we come back, we're going to have a poll question and discuss the poll question.
right. That's what organized together radio shows do.
Boy, you can tell the bosses are in town this week.
Collared shirts, and we've got our together.
Tell you what that is, David? That's Clutch. Like Clutch vodka.
We need them.
Yes, we do.
Some mornings we've really needed them.
Miller and Moulton, we thank you for listening. The poll question and some Big Ten discussion on the other side.
We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah, Tim, if you think about it, I know NBC has the Olympics and they have the NFL. And then they have golf and what? Is it Premier League? I get them confused. Premier Champions, but it's Premier League, right? NBC is Premier League.
Yes, and I think they have the Premier League.
So if they, they only get 7 home games with Notre Dame. That's it. And otherwise, what are they running in the fall besides 7 Notre Dame games on Saturdays? I mean, there's no golf anymore. Golf wraps up by Labor Day. And so I think it's a programming deal for NBC.
I got to call my buddy and see how much of the raid yesterday was visible from the street.
What was funny though is I wasn't surprised because shortly after he left the White House, they said he took stuff with him that he wasn't supposed to take. So, I mean, a year and a half ago, people were basically saying, "Hey, you're not president anymore. You got to give that stuff back." So I guess he didn't give it back. I mean, they're not raiding him for January 6th or anything like that. Apparently, the raid was just to get back the
that's
artifacts.
why was it necessary?
If you ask somebody for a year and a half and they don't give it back, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, the fact that we're showing up at a former president's house,
right?
That's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
And I think it's embarrassing all the way around, but it's embarrassing. I mean, Mark, they say it's a bad look.
I'm curious if he was driving home from work
I'm curious, was he there?
Donald?
Yeah. Was he even there?
I don't think so.
Oh
my God. So there's a Twitter or a TikTok that I follow. It's Country Club Adjunct or something like that. And they're the ones that try to get people to back off the tee. I don't know if you've ever seen the videos.
No, I haven't.
They're basically just trying to mock people. They're all, so they're behind Trump. They're at the LIV in the Pro-Am behind Trump. What did they say to Trump? Will your followers be upset if you hit that one to the left? A couple of made in China comments.
Okay.
And Trump gets up there, hits a pretty good shot.
Right.
They did it to Ivanka. DeChambeau, because DeChambeau's playing with Trump.
Yeah, it's DJ and DeChambeau playing with
DeChambeau walks over to him and goes, "You nervous at all saying that stuff to a president?" And they're all shaking their heads like, "Nope, didn't have a problem at all. I had the lines written." Whew. And I'll tell you what, that was a little window into the soul of Donald, because he didn't back off. Because the whole thing is get you to laugh and back off.
Right.
Not only did he back off, he's talking shit right back to him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour number 2 of Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday, the 9th of August. 2 days away from the Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com. I think we're going to cap it at 50. I know the room could hold 60. I'm thinking of just creating a little bit of space. That's all. Thinking of capping it at 50. And if that's the case.
Hey, I mean, we're not making any money on this, so
Right.
cap it wherever the hell you want.
I'm telling you, though, we're not losing money. We've got like $2.47 per person extra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, you negotiated the least expensive dinner in the history of dinners then.
Well, I'm not saying it's steak.
You keep saying dinner.
Well, yeah, it is dinner. I mean, there's fish, there's burgers, there's chicken. I mean, it's there's a menu there. It's all on it. Never mind, my favorite.
That's an appetizer.
I understand it's a big appetizer, though. I mean, 6 quesadillas. I mean, all in one plate. It's a hot steaming deal. Anyway, anybody else offering you anything? I didn't think so. 2 days away from that. 18 days away from week 0, 23 days away from week 1, 30 days away from Bills and Rams, the kickoff of the NFL season. 2, 18, 23, and 30. Hut, hike. Those are our magic numbers. Pat Kirwan 1 hour from now. Talk plenty of football for a half an hour. Am I making too much of this whole Big Ten leaving ESPN deal?
I don't think I think it's a huge story. I don't know if it's as big as you think it is, but I could be completely wrong here. I am not as worried about where a game airs. I will find it. I think most people will find it. I think this financially, obviously, is huge for the Big Ten Conference.
Oh, yeah, they're going to make a lot of money. They're going to make more in television revenue than the SEC is. I mean, they are.
It's a great day for the Big Ten. The SEC's fine. I don't know how good of a day it is for college sports. I don't know if this creates a bigger divide or less of a divide.
Well, here's what I think it creates. And you know what? I don't like to go here. But I think for the first time what this creates Democrats and Republicans. All right. This is now the 4-letter network and the 3-letter network that are running college sports because football is running college sports. And yeah, CBS and NBC are along for the ride. And, the 3:30 time slot. I mean, I think last year they finally got beat. I think they had 15 straight years where the 3:30 time slot on CBS was the number 1 rated time slot. There's I think a dispute between CBS and Fox as to who had the higher rated slot and this, that, and the other thing. And I think, quite frankly, the Ohio State-Michigan game was such a ratings bonanza that the noon slot, I think, technically won. But the 3:30 slot on CBS has been the number 1 slot in the sport for a generation. And now noon is coming on really strong. And the Big Ten's like, yeah, we're going to have both of those now. And we're going to have NBC reportedly treat Saturday nights the way they treat Sunday nights in the NFL. They're going to make a big deal out of this. And if that's the case, then we're going to give them the best damn games we can. It's kind of like when ABC said, we're going to pump up Monday Night Football as big as we can. We're going to spend all this money on Buck and Aikman. The NFL said, well, you give us $2.7 billion a year. You know what? We'll give you better games. So the Big Ten's going to do that as well.
I'm curious of a bunch of things on this. One, is the Michigan-Ohio State game anywhere but noon on Fox for the rest of time? All this money going, I can't imagine the game being anywhere but noon on Fox.
Yeah, I can't either. I think the only big game that now you wonder about is, so are they going to alternate the Big Ten championship game? Or is Fox also going to have that every year? Fox is not giving up Ohio State, Michigan. There's no way.
Right.
I mean, they own 60% of the Big Ten network. They reportedly were sitting next to the commissioner while negotiating all this. And that's why many people have speculated for months that Fox is saying, we're getting rid of the 4-letter network. We're kind of at war with them. That's who we're competing with.
Fox is number 1 and number 2 were part of this. It's not reported. It's fact.
But if you're the Big Ten in 2022, are you making a mistake leaving ESPN? Because reportedly they're also leaving for basketball. And I know it's not what it used to be, and then this, that, and the other thing, but it's still kind of a significant, right? It's significant college basketball, this whole March Madness thing. It's 4+ months of programming, November, December, January, February. All right. And most of us, when we're inclined to grab the clicker and throw it on during that time of the year, it's our first outlet. It's not FS1.
Oh, FS1 isn't one of our first 4 or 5. I mean, really and truly.
So
it's the ESPN family of networks.
Right.
And then you go searching.
And so if you're no longer associated during the winter months with the ESPN family of networks, because I agree with you with football. People just find, where's the game? Okay, fine. They find it. They know where it is, and they're fine. Where I do think it will affect, though, is going back to my Democrats and Republicans thing, is propaganda.
9 to 12.
Bingo. And how big do you think 9 to 12 is?
It's, for me personally,
right,
as someone who was a religious watcher of game day for decades, in the last couple of years, I have found myself watching less and less of it. I think they made a mistake going to 3 hours. I think the show's tremendously watered down now.
Okay. I don't disagree. We know why they did it. It's more commercials.
It's more commercials, more money. I love the picks segment. I like when someone comes on. I think that's a good segment. But
Corso, by the way, I think it was Sunday, celebrated his 87th
yes.
birthday. That show will not be the same when he's no longer there.
No, and he's, saw an article with Herb Street that he, Corso's already fired up talking about what headgears, in the first game and all that. So that will be terrific. And I do think there is a little nostalgia with game day because we all are realizing, David, that Corso's days on television are numbered. We don't, like anything else, something we've been used to for a long time will go away.
And by the way, ESPN deserves a staggering amount of credit. And I know it was in their best interest, but Lee Corso had a serious stroke, and we all know because we watched. I mean, he's gotten stronger and stronger every year, but there was a time there where he was struggling to talk, and ESPN did not abandon him. All right, they deserve a lot of credit for that. I know it was in their best interest, but they showed a lot of humanity, and you could tell those guys love him.
Right, everyone
absolutely love him. They would all take a bullet for Lee Corso. Nobody says a bad word about Corso, by the way, in the industry. Nobody. Not one syllable.
So how much does that show have to do with success? How does that show treat the Big Ten next year? How does it treat the Big Ten following next year?
That I'd forget because we've had so many comments now in our Twitch chat room, but someone joked that game day is going to treat a year from now the Big Ten the way the PGA Tour is treating the LIV.
I don't think that that's wrong.
And the way CBS and NBC are treating the LIV and the LIV golfers. Okay. And that's what I'm wondering, though. If you're the 4-letter network, can you really just say, you guys are dead to us? I mean, I'll say it again. Ohio State's the number one draw in the sport. They are. It's not Alabama. It's Ohio State. And they're clear number one. Now, Alabama's a clear number 2. And a really good Notre Dame team is a clear number 3. And then you start kicking it around. And I would put Michigan, by the way, 4 when they're good. So, I mean, if think about, the schools I just mentioned, only one of them's the SEC.
It's why in this move, we also have to talk about what is the SEC going forward. And it's why Texas getting back to relevancy would be a big deal for ESPN. It's why Florida becoming Florida again would be a big deal to ESPN because Georgia does not move the needle the way other teams do when they're great.
And what I'm wondering here is with Fox / the Big Ten orchestrating this, we're moving away from ESPN. Will the viewers also move away? Because now they're essentially trying to regionalize a conference and a network, which are both very national. Obviously, the 4-letter network is the biggest thing in sports. And the SEC is the biggest thing in college football. So that's national and national. And is this the Big Ten in conjunction now with not just Fox, but CBS and NBC is going to join the party too? Oh, you want to regionalize them? We can help regionalize them. Absolutely.
And what I find the most fascinating about all of this, David, is that in a world where the NFL has jumped to Amazon, NFL Sunday Ticket's going to jump to Apple TV, the Big Ten signed with NBC, CBS, and Fox, 3 over-the-air networks.
There are still whispers that they're going to do some little side deal with an Amazon, say. Don't know what that'll be. Don't know if that's a Thursday, can't be a Thursday night game. I don't know. But there's talk that they're going to try somehow, some way to bring a streaming service on for a little something. Okay, whatever.
But to me, that was the part of this that I just found the most interesting, that they went 3 over-the-air networks as their big 3. And no big money coming out of the streaming departments, at least for now.
Right. Maybe next TV deal. One thing I have not heard, by the way, and I didn't see it in any John Oran, Sports Business Journal's reporting. I haven't seen for how long this deal is. Don't know if this is in the 5-6 year range. Don't know if this is in like the 8 to 12 year range. Don't know. Because obviously we've seen TV deals be 10, 11, 12 years here recently. So kind of curious about that. You know who I think had a good night last night? The ACC.
I agree with you.
Because we've been talking about it for a year and a half. Where are the ACC games going to air on ESPN?
Well, if the Big Ten was there, we really wondered. Now with no Big Ten, there's a lot more room for ACC games.
Because right now, and I think also because if you're the 4-letter network, if you have to prioritize who our number 2 network's going to be between the Pac-12, Big 12, and ACC, who do you think gets the nod to be our number 2 conference? I think it's the ACC.
The Entertainment and South Production Network, huh?
We can work on a new
acronym for ESPN here.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that during the break. So our poll question is essentially, is this a good move or a bad move for the Big Ten?
Is the Big Ten making a mistake leaving ESPN? Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, or FL Sports Network to vote. We are Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So game day used to be 2 hours and they made it 3 hours? I thought it was like 4 hours.
Hmm?
I thought game day used to be like super long.
It's 3 hours.
No, it was 2 hours, and then it first went to 3 hours when Aaron Andrews was having a contract renewal, and they needed to give Aaron something to keep her to stay. So they added a third hour, and she did the first hour of game day.
When was that?
Well, she's been at Fox 10 years, so we're probably talking like between 08 and 2012 type
Okay.
deal. So she did the 9 a.m. hour, and then Fowler would come on at 10, and they would do their normal game day.
Have you guys ever been to a college game day?
Yeah.
Like several?
Well, no, I just did it once.
Which one?
It was in where was it? I think it was game of the century. Alabama LSU
Nice.
in Tuscaloosa.
I went to the only college game day on the campus of the University of Miami, and it was awesome. But then again, that was back when people cared more about college game day.
Oh, I think they care immensely about college game day.
Well, right, but not as much in recent years.
Well, no,
I
your
think
generation loves it.
I think they care immensely about
Yeah,
it.
no, it's a BFD, man.
Yeah, but I don't know. Recently, like in the past 2 years, Barstool has kind of come up with their own version of it,
Well,
and more college kids are flocking towards those.
If it's on their campus,
If it's on their campus, yeah.
but
they're typically
otherwise,
never on the same. They're never on the same places.
Barstool?
And game day.
No, they Barstool will purposely show up to where game day is and be like, "Look, we'll pull in a better crowd than you," and they do, with ease.
no, they don't. No, they don't.
Well, with the kids,
No,
They did
don't.
it. Well, they have. I understand they have big things, but they're not. They're not game day.
You're right. 'Cause game day's huge. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome when it was on the campus of UM.
Well, they do a great job. They have a great crew, and I don't just
Yes.
mean the on-air people. Their producers are great. They get to town early. They work people up. I mean, DC in our Twitch chat room here, game day's been to Fargo twice. It's been epic shows both times.
You've been on the campus of UM, right?
Yeah.
So you know how there's that big lake in the center?
Mm-hmm.
They had a camera go over the lake and then into the stage.
Yeah.
Right next to the pool and all that. It's beautiful.
DC, you're saying Barstool in Chicago had a bigger crowd than game day?
Yes.
It's interesting.
Was game day at Michigan State this year? Because I know Barstool was a big crowd. I just don't know if they had both.
No, because that game was on Fox. Or Michigan State. I'm tired.
Well, believe it. And that's part of the interesting issue which has happened where game day has to go to a Fox game. It's just the game. Their thing is we're at the biggest game every week. But if Fox is carrying that game at noon, game day is essentially doing a pregame show for Big Noon.
Oh, so
And
that
they've gone to Ohio State, Michigan when the game's on Fox.
really?
Yeah. If you're billing yourself as we're the pregame show, we go to the game. Yeah. I mean, game day's been at the same place as Fox's pregame show.
That's interesting.
In RCB, they are. Amazon definitely made a bid for the Big Ten. It just looks like they're the odd man out on this. So they are bidding, RCB.
I think everyone in the game day crew picked Notre Dame over Miami.
Are we coming back?
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes after the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. So our poll question is a pretty simple question. I think it's a very layered topic. And maybe I'm a little biased in terms of the interest in the topic because, you know, I work in the college football broadcasting world as a side piece there, but I find this fascinating. What's the question again?
Is the Big Ten making a mistake leaving ESPN? Early votes are heavy no. 80+% say no.
Which in and of itself I find interesting.
There's a lot of anti-ESPN out there.
Why is that?
Because they became woke. And in this market, where our main, we're on the west coast of Florida, which doesn't like that.
Well, no, it's pretty red. Yes.
So that's the first part of it.
Okay.
And I think the biggest part of it. I just think that
but they're not woke now.
I understand that.
Compared to they were more.
Oh, they're not even close to what they were.
Right. 3 to 5 years ago, they had an agenda. It was obvious, and they were pushing it. They were pushing it hard. And almost all of those people, from executives to hosts, are no longer there.
They've made a very calculated decision to not be that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But it's tough to get people's minds changed when they are convinced you are something.
Okay.
That's the first thing.
But I'm assuming even if you as a viewer got angry at ESPN, you've come back though, right? And I don't mean the Sports Center, okay? Because people left Sports Center 15 years ago. Although Van Pelt has brought people back. His editions of Sports Center do really well. He's done a terrific job building that brand back at least 3-4 nights a week. He gets a really good, consistent audience. I digress. I mean, the games are on ESPN. We watch, right? I mean, you're not boycotting watching a game because of the network it's on, are you?
I certainly am not.
I mean, have you ever?
No.
And I don't just mean you. I mean, everyone listening. I mean, have you ever not watched a game because you could say, "Oh, I turned down the announcers. I don't like them." Oh, okay.
Like this tweet I got, ESPN is dying. I don't care what they say. Okay, are you not going to watch the games on ESPN?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not watching game day anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fine. I've outgrown game day too. I have. Although I try to watch
You and I both like to watch the pick section.
Yeah.
It's tough to say that ESPN is dying because, they're losing the Big Ten, but they have almost everything else.
Oh, they have a lot of everything else.
Exactly.
But we don't watch as much ESPN 6A to midnight as we used to as a country. That's the part of ESPN that is struggling. All right. Their games, they got the games. We watch. We're into games.
And that's why I think this is a bigger blow for ESPN than it is for the Big Ten, because we watch the games. And they just lost significant eyeballs that go to that network for the Big Ten.
And I don't know if this gets too nitty-gritty and what have you, but the Big Ten is, in terms of alumni, they're a bigger conference than the SEC. And they're more national. Now, the SEC plays better football. They do. And they play better baseball and softball. And, the SEC right now has really got it going on sports-wise.
By the way, basketball's not all bad either.
No. All right. But in terms of where your alumni are and how many alumni that you have and the net worth of set alumni, the Big Ten's bigger.
Damn right.
A lot. And so, you could debate the SEC brand of football is better. Household ratings wise, the safer play is actually the Big Ten. This, to me, Mark, this all stems from about 20 months ago when the SEC made two decisions. They made the decision to go all in with ESPN on everything, to not have a second or third network. They had for the longest time, a quarter century, they had the 3:30 games on CBS, and ESPN had all the other games. ESPN/ABC, they had all the others, but 3:30 was on CBS. They decided to go away from that. When they did, the SEC knowingly or unknowingly opened themselves up for this kind of counterattack. I mean, they had to think CBS was going to try to get a piece of college football. What's the best conference we can get our hands on? Well, the next one up for bids is the Big Ten. But the other decision that they made, Mark, is they made it so early. CBS still has 2 more years contractually of broadcasting the SEC. The SEC made the decision to divorce themselves from CBS and any other network 3.5 years before their contract was up. That is an eternity these days in this business.
Well, and all of the things that have happened, all the money that came into play during the Amazon money wasn't even in existence when they did this
20
deal.
months ago. It was just 20 months ago. It was December of 2020 when the SEC said to CBS, we're done with you guys. We're giving everything to the 4-letter network. And I mean, I'm guessing it's not like, I talked to any of the power players at CBS about this, but you got to figure one of them looked at the SEC during negotiations and go, you're already getting all the money from ESPN. You got the SEC network from them. They do all the other games. I mean, do you really want to give them everything? I mean, it'd be, look at the NFL model. You want to spread this around. I mean, you could have made the case to the SEC. You'd be better off bringing in a third network than putting it all with one network. And instead, they went all in with the worldwide leader.
And the worldwide leader went all in with them.
Damn right they did. They pushed them hard, make this decision now. We want this property. Now, granted, they went out and got the most valuable property in college sports. They got the 3:30 Saturday window with the SEC. Okay. But now we're going to find out how much of that window was also CBS, to be honest. And I'm not saying this as somebody who's part of the crew. I mean, that was a network that built that slot.
No, we're going to find out because why? The Big Ten went with 3 over-the-air networks to run their games.
Right.
They looked at the calculated risk and said there are still enough people that rely on over-the-air networks, even though they're getting them different ways, and we get that. But the over-the-air network tends to get a better rating than the cable network. It's just a fact.
Correct. So, the way we've worded the question is, did the Big Ten make a mistake by leaving ESPN, right?
Yes.
Another question, and we're not going to put it up, but, you could spin this the other way and go, did the SEC make a mistake by going all in with ESPN? I mean, Mark, I don't think this deal happens for the Big Ten if the SEC hadn't struck first 20 months ago. We joked about the alliance that was created a year or so ago between the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Big 12. To me, Mark, it's almost as if ESPN and the SEC drove the Big Ten to this alliance. I mean, the commissioner of the Big Ten took over 3 weeks after the SEC signed the deal. Well, it actually took him a long time to sign it, but came out publicly and said, this is what we're doing. We're going all in with these guys. 3 weeks later, the new commissioner got the job.
It is a fascinating look at how we watch games, where we will watch games, and who's going to be right. Because ESPN has now, the bottom half of the country.
Yeah, bottom third. They got it.
And the other networks have the rest of the country.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. And does this become the sports version of Republicans and Democrats?
I think we can coexist a little better than they can.
Oh, God, I hope so.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So Donato Cap, you watch Bally Sports. I watch Bally Sports too, but I have a gripe with Bally Sports because I'm all about aesthetics with some kinds of things. I hate the scoreboard on Bally Sports.
Well, Donato Cap, here's what I don't understand. You say, I miss games and I just get the scores, but I watch Bally Sports. Bally Sports is more games than scores, right? I mean, Bally Sports is regional games.
No, but I think he's saying that if a game is on ESPN and not on Bally Sports, he'll just won't watch the game on ESPN entirely.
Okay, and think about, though, I mean, I'm sorry. Think about what you're saying. I'll watch games if they're on Bally Sports, but if they're on ESPN, I won't watch them. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on.
No, it is. Like, I'll admit, I would much rather watch an NBA game on TNT than ESPN, unless.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, rather.
Yes.
But you're not
I'm not.
in
Of
the
course
game.
not.
Right.
Of course.
Right. And there's no doubt. People, we have our preferences, announcers, broadcast
Trust
networks.
me, Michigan State was bad for a lot of years. I was doing the noon ESPN2 game with
Pam Ward.
The worst play-by-play announcer that's ever done football. And I had to sit there and muscle through the games.
You know what you do? You turn down the volume. How about that?
I like having the announcers for football. I want names. It's not a basketball game where you're going to know everybody on the court and you can just turn it off. I'm not that good.
My friend, he's a Sixers fan, and Mark Zumoff recently retired, legend.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And the new announcer.
Well, they replaced him with a woman.
Well, it's not that she's a woman; it's that she's just not good.
Okay. Well,
I don't think she's good, and we just turn it down. But we
I
still
got a couple
watch.
of tweets here.
yeah. Because the other part about this, which we've touched upon, is the propaganda. I mean, I would argue there's far more propaganda in college sports than there is pro sports. And the networks are propaganda. I mean, ESPN's a propaganda machine.
Man,
And I don't just mean woke and what have you. I mean, like, if you get them in your campus, that's a 3-hour commercial, man.
Yeah.
Infomercial. It's worth millions. And so, you get Game Day to do a feature on you, to talk about you. Hey, we've seen it in the last 15 plus years when they were anti-SEC, which, believe it or not, they were. Okay. And then they were so pro-SEC, they were ignoring the Big Ten, except for Ohio State. And now they've tried to come back.
And it's like, to your point, like the Barstool, the crowd on campus, like I know Michigan State had either Fox, ESPN, and Barstool. I think all three of them were there. The biggest crowd was at Barstool. It wasn't close, but it doesn't matter. Do you know how many millions of people are watching it on television?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's on.
There's no Barstool on TV.
Right. And I happened to watch it because it was in Cedar Village. I went to school there. So I turned it on and watched Portnoy double bird the whole Michigan State audience. It was awesome. He was great. He double bird the audience, got doused with about 500 beers.
Yeah.
He knew it was coming.
Exactly.
But they put on a good show. Like their bars, I think their game day is solid because they actually know their stuff.
See, that's the thing.
Is it KFC? KFC knows he knows his stuff.
Yeah. For that specific setting, I mean, I could be wrong about this, but I think the demographic that you want to appease the most is the kids living on campus.
No.
The crazies.
For what for who? For the television audience? That's who you're trying to appease?
Or no, to be there.
Well, they get both. Well, first off, adults aren't taking their kids to the Barstool thing. I'm not showing up on campus and walking Maddie down to the Barstool
No.
scene.
College kids are.
Yeah, college
Your
kids.
son is going to be there.
Yeah, but he'd go to game day too because he wants to see game day. But he'd end up at the Barstool.
Exactly.
But you're missing the point.
Yes.
When you're doing a television show, you're doing it for the television audience.
True. Yes.
No, not true. Fact.
Yes. Fact. But I just think that crazies make things look more entertaining.
Makes for a better atmosphere.
Exactly.
I mean, ESPN's trying to do both. Obviously, they're trying to engage with the college kids. That's their future audience and what have you. They want to create a great atmosphere for game day. But game day is done for the 3 million people watching on television.
Nothing will beat game day signs. Man, the amount of touchdown Jesuses I saw wearing a turnover chain.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6. The Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up. A handful, maybe a couple more than that, spots still available. So sign up. Dr. Roto, the featured guest, one of the very best in the fantasy industry. You're going to win your fantasy draft. You're going to win money. We're just trying to help. And you get some food and drink with it, thanks to Clutch Vodka.
Had the open house last night, David. My daughter's starting 3rd grade this week, so we had the school open house last night. Her new teacher, we walk in and the teacher introduces herself and asks if we have any expectations. And I said, yeah, I'd like her to have a job by the end of the year. Just sat there with a straight face and waited for the teacher to respond to me.
Why do you do that to that 3rd grade teacher? They're underpaid. They're overworked. All right. Come on now. It's a good line, though. I applaud you.
Don't ask a question like that if you're not prepared for all the answers. Then my wife, because then they asked about volunteering, and my wife works far more than I do. And she just looked at me and she goes, well, you can do that. And we brought the form home and I'm filling out and there's like 9 boxes to check off what you want to do. And my wife goes, well, which ones do you want to do? I went, none of them.
Right. By the way, honey, if I heard you correctly, you said you could do some of that. Doesn't mean I will do some of that. Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. We've been talking a lot about what we think. I mean, the funniest story that's out there in the sports world in the last 12 plus hours is the news that Kevin Durant told the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, hey, it's either me or the coach or GM. You decide, don't care, but they got to go. They're idiots.
Yes, I know I was the one that said hire that coach, but he's an idiot. I was wrong. Get rid of him.
Right. Yeah, I know I signed a 4-year, $198 million contract extension a year ago, which, by the way, is just about to kick in. Thank you. But you're an idiot, too, by the way. Get rid of them. What are you doing? So that's that's the funniest story that's out there. But we think the biggest story that's out there is, and it was reported last night and has been confirmed by many in the media as being true. John Oran, Sports Business Journal, Big Ten deal to be announced within the week. That it's going to be football at noon on Fox, football at 3:30 on CBS, and football in prime time on NBC. And if you're doing the math, yes, that's right. That means no ESPN. For the first time since 1982, they will have nothing to do with Big Ten sports. It'll be the first time since the mid-'60s that ABC as a television network has nothing to do with Big Ten football. And it led to our poll question.
Which is the Big Ten making a mistake leaving ESPN? And right now, 85% of you are saying they are not making a mistake.
So if a Big Ten team makes the national championship game, you think the Big Ten is upset about that? Or
what?
Or because they're on Fox, or they're on Fox now.
Yeah.
Right.
Is Fox upset about that because they
No.
have no choice but to be on ABC?
Yeah, and Fox has to live with that deal. Now, what many in the industry think is that this contract goes, I think, through 25, maybe 26, but I think it's through the 2025 season. I think we have 4 more years of the current playoff setup. And the thought within the industry is that, and it's been, I think, proven in the last 6 months by how college sports has acted, that college sports is going to use the NFL model because it's been shown to be the most profitable. Instead of one network, ESPN/ABC, controlling the playoff, they're going to dramatically expand the playoff, which gives more inventory for more networks. And we're going to put these games up for bid. I mean, think about it. 16-team tournament, that's 15 football games. Okay, how many games you want? By the way, we're valuing these games at like $250 million a game. How many you want? How many you want? How many you want? And that's the
And
thought.
some of you are only going to be able to be in the 10 and under item.
Yeah. And some of you are only going to be able to afford first-round games.
Right. In fact, this is a grocery store where we have a 4 and under lane. And most of you are in that lane.
Right. Wow, that 4 and under lane is crowded. Man. But that's the thought within the industry, that that's the way college sports is going to go, because they pretty much sat back, looked at how the NFL does things and goes, wow, those guys got it right. And so college sports will profit tremendously off of it. You'll get the streaming services involved and all that.
So a couple of tweets that we received regarding the poll question. T. Barrington, who is a gigantic Cowboys fan, has the triplets for his background picture with the current triplets in the foreground. I mean, you can't get enough. You know, he's not current triplets because that's mean to the triplets, but he's got the triplets.
Right.
You know, and then he's got the current 3.
Right. You mean the 3 Hall of Famers?
Yeah. And then he's got the current 3 at their
3
position.
non-Hall of Famers.
Well, yes.
Right. Okay.
But just pointing out what a Cowboy fan this guy is.
Absolutely.
That's the only picture I was trying to paint. I was not trying to take any attacks on your money train.
Listen, I don't care if it's triplets or no triplets.
But he says, I hardly watch ESPN because it's boring. I'm tired of the same old people on there. Several of them I can't stand at all because of their arrogance and really bad opinions they try to force on you. And I think he's referring to Stephen A. Smith because I got an SAS at the bottom of it. And then Turner, whose Twitter handle is Husker T.
We're thinking Nebraska?
Oh, yeah. You guys never mentioned Nebraska, but they are a very high TV view. Turner? No, they're not. They're not a top 20 view in the country. They're just not. In fact, I looked it up. They're in the 21 to 25 range.
Now, it would be nice if they could at least go back to where they were under Bo Pelini. I would be curious if Nebraska could go back to being a 9-3 program every year. I think, Husker T, you'd be right. I think Nebraska would re-enter the top 20. The Big Ten would love that, obviously, if Nebraska could go back to even being what they were under Bo Pelini. Sucks for the Big Ten that Nebraska is struggling right now. Hopefully they'll...
Struggling right now. They've struggled since they've come into the conference. It's been a loser for the Nebraska has been a loser for the Big Ten.
Well, I mean, none of us thought that Miami in the ACC was going to perform the way they have. I mean, it's been a surprise. I mean, there's been a few schools that have joined conferences, and we thought, oh, wow. I mean, remember, legends and leaders. Well, Nebraska's going to be in the Big Ten championship game, every other year, every third year.
And right now, all we're saying is beat Northwestern.
Yeah, it's a big game. Big game. What's it, August 27th or something like that? Yeah, please win.
Fitz wants to win in Dublin. It's a home game for Northwestern.
So does it matter to you? And it sounds like you guys don't care what the games are on. But will you acknowledge this? I brought up that college sports is now becoming the Democrats and the Republicans. And you could joke that it makes ESPN, ironically, who's regarded as the woke network, they're regarded as Democrats by many a sports fan. But if you look at the region of the country that they're in and the teams that they're now broadcasting, They really now have become the Republicans. Okay. And Fox, which is right, is now the Democrats. Okay. That little joke there. So, but anyway, and I know CBS and NBC are involved in other things and what have you, but if they're clearly the two power forces. I mean, ESPN's money pushed the SEC in the direction that they have. Fox's presence and money has pushed the Big Ten in the direction that they have. And that means that they're not doing business with each other. We have two alliances here. Will it matter to you if game day, we think they're going to be talking a lot of SEC, ACC, man. That's where their interests are. They are going to promote their interests.
And that that's a fascinating move in and of itself. Because if the Big Ten fan now turns game day off too.
Right. Which Fox wants them to. It's like, hey, come to us. Come to us, baby. Big noon. Big noon. It leads right into your games. Huh? You getting the idea of what we're doing here? Took a little while, but we figured it out.
By the way, did you ever think for a moment, because the 3:30 slot I know is so big that it would go to 4? Because they're going to be crossing over these games. The noon game's not going to be done when CBS is starting at 3:30.
My thought was that whichever network was going to do the middle slot was going to push hard because, believe it or not, they have affiliates and they have more of them than Fox has. And they actually care more about their affiliates. And their affiliates would really like them to be done by 7 Eastern and or 6 Central. Because at 6 Central, they'll go to local news, which is very profitable. And at 7 Eastern, they'll go to Wheel and Jeopardy, which is very profitable. So these affiliates, of which there are hundreds of them, to keep the whole affiliate structure going, which is another reason why the networks spend the money that they spend on sports. If it's not for the sports, quite frankly, a lot of local stations are like, well, what the hell am I carrying your programming for? It's not like anybody's watching any of it.
Right. I make my money on the news, Wheel, and Jeopardy.
Exactly.
I don't make my money
sports.
on CSI Miami.
Right. And sports. I mean, that's what I'm making my money on. I can do all of that without you, by the way, unless you're going to give me the sports. Right. So I thought whichever network it was. Another thing, and I have no information, this is totally conjecture on my part, but if if Notre Dame had made the decision to join the Big Ten, then I thought that was really going to help NBC and figured it would get NBC the 3:30 slot because Notre Dame plays their home games at 2:30. So they would adjust the Notre Dame home games to put them on NBC, but that would bring NBC in as probably the number 2 network with the Big Ten. And then I didn't know if there would be room for any other network, to be honest. That I thought Notre Dame's decision was going to determine the TV deal that the Big Ten put together. And that if Notre Dame joined, it would be Fox and NBC. I could be completely wrong in what I was thinking, but I thought Notre Dame was going to drag. When Notre Dame didn't come, if you were running the Big Ten, CBS has established that time slot for 30 years. Okay, it would be smart to go, well, let's let that 3:30 window be the 3:30 window on that network. By the way, keep the theme song, by the way. Keep the theme song. And you guys at NBC, you already do the Sunday night football thing. What do you think about Saturday night football? I mean, I thought Notre Dame was the linchpin as to how this deal was going to go.
I also wonder going forward, we're talking about Big Ten in prime time at NBC. You would think they're going to want to put a couple of those Notre Dame games in prime time as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering if there'll be ever weeks where, where NBC doesn't get a Big Ten game, or where there's 2 3:30 games on the Big Ten. A CBS and NBC, I can't imagine that, but NBC is going to want a game every week.
No, and they're going to get a good one.
And when they want to move Notre Dame to primetime, my guess is they're going to move Notre Dame to primetime.
Yeah. And quite frankly, Fox and CBS will be thrilled because that's one less game of inventory they have to give up. Be like, great, we'll get a better game.
Well, that's what I wonder. If you're NBC, would you want a 3:30 game on the weeks you don't have Notre Dame at 3:30? You see what I'm saying here?
I am.
From a consistency that
Right.
they have a 3:30 and an 8 o'clock every week.
Right.
Some weeks the 3:30 is Notre Dame.
And I'm guessing the deal is, hey, we understand you've got the deal with Notre Dame football. And if they're at home and you want to run them at 2:30 and that competes against the Fox and CBS games, we just have to live with that. Okay. And then you'll run your Big Ten game at night. If I'm NBC, that's what I want, as much of that as possible. That's have your cake and eat it too. I get Big Ten in prime time, but I get Notre Dame at 2:30. They've been holding their own against Fox and CBS for 20 years now. I'll take my chances. And by the way, what are all of us doing? We're ganging up on the 4-letter network.
And that's where the ratings will come into play, because you're going to start seeing the combined numbers of the other networks versus the combined numbers of ESPN, and they are going to dwarf them.
Now, DC asked quickly, Notre Dame road games owned by ESPN? Yes. Except Navy, believe it or not. I believe the Notre Dame Navy road game is owned by CBS. But yes, that's where you'll see some Notre Dame on the 4-letter network. And the only way you would see a Big Ten team on the 4-letter network is if they were playing a road game against an ACC or SEC school. And we don't see a lot of that.
Occasionally in the ACC, but never in the SEC. A reminder, still time to sign up for our Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit. It is Thursday night at Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe, 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6. There are about 8 or so spots still remaining for this. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com, floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up for the Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit with Dr. Roto this Thursday at 7 p.m. at Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe. Pat Kirwan is next right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Oh.
So I'm looking up the birthdays. The first one I see is, that Ralph Houck died today. So I popped that in there. The next one I get is Bob Cousy. There's no death date. So I double check. I'm like, Cousy's still alive.
No. Cousy?
Didn't have a death date on it. Double check it, but I did not have, I checked twice.
I thought he died a year ago.
All right, I'll check again.
No.
Why I'm doing this. I do not, on Google, I've got no death date. He's 94 years old today. Right? Same thing, Rod Laver. Yeah, he's 84. Jamarcus Russell's 37. Doesn't even seem right.
I'm calling Pat, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because a week ago, Bob Cousy commented on Bill Russell's passing.
Yeah.
With the quote, I got a hunch I'll be seeing him shortly.
Jamarcus Russell's 37.
Oh, it's Havlicek who died that I thought.
Does that not seem old?
Well, he was the first pick of the
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the 8 o'clock hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. floridasportsnetwork.com. It's where you can go for our poll question. Our dominant topic of the day has been what, Mark?
Very simply, is the Big Ten making a mistake by leaving ESPN? Right now, 85% of you say they are not making a mistake. Go to that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, or FL Sports Network on Twitter.
By the way, you think they are for hoops, though? Because the report is this also includes basketball. I thought that ESPN was going to be shut out in football, but that they were still going to keep hoops. Because I thought it was in both's best interests, quite frankly. And but the reporting is that no, they're out. They're not going to be doing Big Ten sports, period.
I don't know, and I don't mean to be evasive with an answer.
Right.
I don't know how much college basketball even matters anymore. I think the Big Ten will be a little miffed when they are not able to find games. You know, I look at little things. That means that the Big Ten ACC challenge would go away. That's actually a really good little bit of college basketball. And to lose that would be bad. But, maybe they could kindle up something with the Pac-12, David, and have a Big Ten Pac-12 basketball tournament. I'm sure the Pac-12 would be all for that.
The other part of going to floridasportsnetwork.com is you can sign up for our Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit Thursday night. It starts at 7 with Dr. Roto. Doors open at 6. I mean, included in it is food and drink. So you can show up as early as 6. And Dr. Roto will start the proceedings at 7 o'clock sharp on Thursday night. Pat Kirwan expected to join us here shortly. He is doing his training camp tours. And I don't even know where he is, to be honest with you.
I thought he was in Tampa today.
Okay.
I thought.
All right. Sounds good.
But I'm not positive.
I lost track of it. Saturday was in Cleveland. I've lost track of him since Cleveland. So, don't know where he is.
Well, right now, we truly don't know where he is.
One big training camp story from yesterday, Jets fear offensive tackle Mekhi Becton has suffered a second serious right knee injury. There was even a report last night in which the Jets fear he may be lost for the year. This is turning into a bad top draft choice. That is for sure. And it was going to be the cornerstone for whoever their next quarterback was going to be. And unfortunately, right now, he can't stay healthy. And they're thinking the patella.
And for those that were thinking big things, that the Jets were going to make a big rebound this year, you couldn't have injuries in the preseason like they are already having.
Pat Kirwan's kind enough to join us, and he does so as part of his training camp tours for NFL Radio. Pat joined us courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West, and many points in between Pinchers because you can't fake fresh. Are you in the Sunshine State?
I am not yet. I will be tonight at midnight, I think, is when we get in. But I am in Baltimore today. I was at the Washington Commanders yesterday and Baltimore Ravens in about an hour. So that's my schedule.
All right, well, let's start with the Commanders. We were going through an exercise. David and I have done it a couple times in the past couple of weeks where we just kind of look at the conference and look at teams that we think are playoff teams. Both David and I, when we look at Washington, we do not see a playoff team. Do you?
No, I do not. I think they're working now. Ron is going to try to fight his way in. He's that kind of coach. But no, after seeing the teams I have seen and what I've been preparing for the next stop, no, I don't see them that way. I think they're the third place team in their division, and they'll fight. And I had a nice long talk with Wentz yesterday. It's funny when people don't like players. And a lot of people didn't want them to trade for Wentz. So the guy throws an interception or an incompletion, and it's big news. And they did the same thing recently when I was with Trubisky. And then I go watch Trubisky, and he's like 12 or 14, So the reality is that, and I put it to him, I said, Wentz, 3 teams in 3 years, your own history. You have to get to the point where you don't give a damn anymore. And Alex Smith got to that point, and he became a better player. And you got to toughen up your skin. Have you done that? Do you feel that way? And his answer to me was, yeah, I know what you mean, but I didn't feel like he was there yet. I said, get rid of his sensitivity. And then I talked to Ron about it. I told Ron Rivera, I said, he needs your help to get through this. And he's a pretty good athlete. He's a pretty good player, but he's got scars. And I think that the head coach is the only one who's going to pull him out of it, and himself, of course. So, no, I don't think, Mark, that they are playoff teams.
Now, if they get the good Wentz, though, if they get a, not necessarily 2017 Wentz when he was going to win the MVP till he got hurt, but let's just say 2018 Wentz. Say they get the best Carson Wentz, that they can get. Does that make them a playoff team, or are they still lacking beyond the quarterback?
No, now we're talking. Now we're into hypotheticals, but I'm with you on answering that question. McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, if he stays healthy, and Dotson, I spend time with him as well. They'll have 3 good receivers. They like playing 11 personnel, 3 wideouts, so they're going to need 6 of them to get through. They have a terrific running back room. Gibson is really good. Brian Robinson, I think, will be a terrific number 2 back, and McKissick is there to be the 3rd down. So they have backs. Here's where I like them. I like them in the offensive line. They have 10 veterans. They don't need to even put a rookie on the field this year. They can go with Leno and Cosme at the tackles, and they've got guys that can line up. In fact, their backups, Lucas, Sadiq Charles, Larson, Schweitzer, and Hill, those guys, they have 34 years of experience. So I always think when your offensive line is too deep with veterans, you've got 3 good receivers, you've got a room full of running backs, yeah, now your offense could be good enough. If he's the guy, actually, even Wentz last year until the end of the season, David, was pretty darn good. He only threw 7 interceptions all year. So, yes, that group, if that happens, yes, but then he slides to the other side of the ball. I thought last year going into the season, they were the number 1 front 4, and they were 17th in sacks. So Ron talked about it, and it was disappointing. Part of it was medical, but part of it was lack of production. And so I think that question should be answered. I spend time with Jonathan Allen. Inside, they'll be fine. But really, it comes down to Young and even Sweat delivering what they delivered the year before.
All right, you're stopped. You said you were in Cleveland before that. Let's talk about the Browns. We all know the quarterback situation, but just, Pat, from going to training camp and looking at that roster, I know we can't talk about them without talking about the quarterback, but from a roster standpoint, eliminate the quarterback from a standpoint, how good is this roster with everything not including the quarterback?
Yeah, I like their offensive line a lot. And I like their running back room even more than I like the Washington running back room with Chubb and Hunt. And Hunt stayed out of team drills while I was there. Big deal. He was back at practice. They already told him, we're not trading you. And he's got huge game roster bonuses. Like, if they wanted to deactivate him, he'd be losing $200,000 a Sunday. So they're going to keep 4 running backs. They like Ford quite a bit, the young kid they took in the 5th round. So they're prepared for next year. They're going to lose Hunt or Johnson. I don't think they'll lose both. They'll pay one of them to stick around, and then Ford will be the 3rd. So they're loaded there. I'm not a big fan of Brissett as it relates to getting to the playoffs. There's no history that he can. He's got a big-time losing record. He's not an athlete that runs around. He's a pocket passer. He's not going to do the things Watson can do. They should, David said it 100 times, go get Garoppolo if this happens, and if it turns into 12 games or something like that. But I do think the rest of the roster is a playoff roster. They are a terrific-looking pass rush team. A little shaky inside on the defensive line with Elliott, and I'm not a big fan of Taven Bryant, but they need Perion Winfrey to come through for him. They've got a very, very nice secondary. They can match up with anybody at any time. So, yes, if they have Watson, they're a playoff team. If they have Garoppolo, they're a playoff team. If that, I think they miss.
Would seem to make a pretty easy decision for the front office, wouldn't it? I mean, we're not brain surgeons, but I mean, the math is the math, right? We're talking with Pat Kirwan weekday afternoons on NFL radio. The show is called Moving the Chains, and he joins us twice a week during the season, Tuesdays and Fridays, courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, and many points in between Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. If I can go back to the Commanders for a second, you can't keep 10 offensive linemen, though. And how many can you keep? I mean, there are teams out there, obviously, who need them. Tampa Bay, in theory, could use 2 of those guys. I mean, Pat, how many of those 10 can you truly keep?
They kept 9 last year. And by the way, Cleveland kept 10 last year. So you can, but you got to give somewhere else. So if you're going to keep 9, which is not hard to do, we know on game day what it's 7 on game day. But you're going to keep, and this is exactly what Washington kept last year: 6 wide receivers, 9 linemen, 4 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs. They did not keep a fullback last year. They have a fullback this year. So, in my opinion, if they keep Armand, the fullback, who they've had before, and they love the guy, then they'll keep 3 tight ends. That was 24 that way. So, and then defense, they kept 5 defensive ends, 5 defensive tackles, 4 linebackers, 6 corners, 4 safeties, 3 specialists, 27 and 24 is 2-3.
All right, Pat, you're heading to Baltimore today. Another team that we know a lot about, and with obviously the quarterback there again getting signed, but is this team going to have enough weapons? What are you trying to find out today? Because obviously we know they love to run it, but they have no one to throw it to, Pat. What are you trying to discover today?
Yeah, well, a lot of it goes on Lamar's shoulders for being an inaccurate passer. So is it him? Is it the receiver group? The receiver group, before I get there, does not appear to be a terrific group at all. But we'll see. I'll keep an open mind, see how Bateman's doing if he got better. But I think that group is kind of average. They are definitely, excuse me, Mark, they're definitely returning to multiple tight end football. They were in that when Lamar won the MVP. We have talked about it all spring. They've got 4 tight ends. They like Mark Andrews. He might be the best tight end in the NFL that no one talks about. Nick Boyle's coming back. He's a phenomenal blocker. And they invested in 2 rookies. And so I think there'll be a 4 tight end team. They'll play a lot of 12 personnel, one running back, 2 tight ends. They're going to play 13 again, which is 1 running back, 3 tight ends. And I think they do it because for Lamar, big targets right in front of him are the kind of completions that he's good at.
And Pat, we'll leave it there. We'll come back after the break, pick up on the Ravens, and we have a Dolphins question that we didn't ask you last week that we must ask you next.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
All right, so who finishes last in the AFC North, Pat?
Well, everyone likes to think it's Pittsburgh.
I know you don't.
I just think Pittsburgh's just a fighting group, and they're kind of angry. They'll hang in there. You know, how can you pick against Mike? Mike is really into this whole bring it on thing. So I don't know. Cincinnati, maybe.
There you go.
It happens all the time, right? Go to a Super Bowl, lose, and then disappear for a year.
And then disappear. And I know everybody loves Joe Burrow, and I get it. But that means all those linemen have to work because he got killed last year.
Yes, he did. And don't know why he wouldn't be getting killed again this year.
Really? So you don't like? Oh, So you think that the line improvements aren't good enough?
He's willing to get sacked for starters. He's a courageous pocket guy. And so I think he's going to get sacked a bunch again. I don't know that the line stuff is so. I never liked the left tackle, so let me just start with that. Never thought he was that good.
Okay.
And I think a lot of guys think he is, and I don't. Look, I don't know who's going to really come in last, but I think in a division like this, you should inspect all four of them.
Yeah. Same thing probably for the AFC West to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think the fourth place team there is going to have 9 or 10 wins. That's the problem for them. The question is, which fourth place loser in the AFC West could win another division?
Oh,
they could probably win the South.
I know David's got your back there because when we kind of went through the AFC, we both think whoever, like he thinks Tennessee, I think the Colts could win it, but neither here nor there. We both think whoever wins it, the other one's not a wild card team.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So let's say the Raiders, because that's the popular choice for fourth. They could easily win the South.
Yes. Absolutely. I think the last place team in the West could win the South this year. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it'll be a shame if they're a 10-win team and they don't get in the playoffs because of who they lost to. So, yeah, I mean, that's I think most people would accept that as a possibility, that come in last in the West, come in first in the South. What AFC team is going to get left out of the playoffs? And the NFC is going to have a seventh-place team that's not going to look very good.
No, there's no doubt. I think, Pat, there will be 9 teams in the AFC that will be better than the 6th seed in the NFC, maybe even 10.
I agree with you. So we'll see what happens to them all. But I definitely feel like it's lopsided in that direction. And, I can't wait to get to Tampa. First of the scrimmage in Miami, so I'm going to see the Dolphins as well.
And then you fly west from Tampa?
Jimmy's got to go do a Bear game. And most years I've been sitting in a hotel in Jacksonville or somewhere, or going back to my house for a couple of days. I'm going up north just for 2 days. I'm going to fly up Thursday night, and then I'll meet them in Denver on Sunday morning. I got some issues with grandkids. There's one group of them that say, "I never see you," all that stuff. So I said, "Okay, drive up to the lake, and I'll spend Friday and Saturday with you, and then Sunday I'll get out of there." But I've never done that before. I've never taken a break in the middle of the camp tour, but I'm okay doing it.
Pat, I wonder if you're going to meet the new Broncos owner, because the sale is made official here later today.
30 seconds.
So I wonder if the new owners will be at camp.
They will be. They got to take a good long look at Russell Wilson and what it's going to cost.
Yeah, well, It's going to cost whatever it's going to cost. They don't have an alternative.
$50 million a year.
Yeah, darn right. He's going to ask for Rodgers' money and accept just a
10
little
seconds.
less.
10 seconds, guys.
All right, here we go.
All right.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Pat Kirwan rejoins us here on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Pat, part of CBS's NFL Today show, also weekday afternoons on NFL radio. He's moving the chains with his co-host Jim Miller. Pat's appearances on our show brought to us by Pinchers from Tampa to Key West, with a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, Mark had asked you before the break about the Ravens and what it is you're looking for. You talked about Lamar and his receiver tight end core. What else intrigues you before you see them later today?
Well, first off, they are always foundationally built on defense. So you always want to see if it's what it should be, and it hasn't been for a while. I'll be looking at the pass rushes. Oweh should be taking the next step up, that's for sure. But I won't be able to see Bowser. I think he's still on PUP. So that stuff, I like them, but they used to dominate on defense. And recently, it's been more of an offensive team with Lamar. You really can't look at this team without looking at, sooner or later, the running backs are all going to be healthy. I think Dobbins is ready to go and Edwards sooner or rather than later. But I do worry about the offensive line. Linderbaum, there's no such thing as like a not serious Liz Frank injury. And that he's played with it before, I get all that stuff. But I'll be looking to see what they're doing with him for sure, because they need him. And they pencil him right in as a starter. But, they got McCarry if they have to. But offensive line, pass rushes, two things I'll be looking at.
Pat, we haven't got your take yet. The Miami Dolphins losing 2 draft picks for their tampering. First off, did you think the fine was harsh enough, and just your take on the whole on the fines that were given to the Miami Dolphins?
I think they were appropriate. I mean, first off, you got to do something. They did something. Forget the $1.5 million. The guy doesn't care about that. He might care about it, but he's lucky he got away with just that. I think the Roger Goodell has a big problem, and that is the new owners. They just don't understand, and they're so impatient to win. They're kind of radical in the way they think, and they're not team-oriented guys. This league was built on owners that were team-oriented, and now apparently that's very passé. Make sure you take care of yourself, and what the heck? The rules are the rules. I think Roger's going to start dumping on guys harder and harder. I think actually, I'll say this to you guys. I think the owner issues frustrate him and bother him a lot more than Deshaun Watson.
How much of this is going on? I mean, is this something like in the NBA, for instance, Pat, there's widespread tampering. It's a joke that when the league every now and then actually punishes an organization for tampering. How much of this goes on in the NFL, or is this the aberration?
I think tampering has always gone on. Look, you got an agent, you're dealing with the agent, and he has a client on another team that is going to be free or could become free if the agent felt I have a landing spot for him. And then they stop negotiations with their home team and they know where they're going. It's amazing sometimes when guys are shown the door how fast they sign and for big money. So, yeah, it's been going on forever. But look, I just think this owner down there got lucky in a sense that they decided to focus the penalty on that stuff rather than maybe what was going on with the head coach that he terminated. So, yeah, it's been going on. But I think it's first off, remember when they started this? This is like kind of funny. Let's have a period of negotiations, but it's not the start of free agency.
Right.
That was kind of like, would you guys please stop? Here's when they talk, and this is when free agency should start. It should start at the combine. All the agents are in Indianapolis or wherever they're going to have it in Indy again. They're all there. All the GMs are there. And do you think they just go out and have a steak dinner and ask them how the kids are doing? I mean, I did it. Everyone did it. You got a position. And here's the other one. I was negotiating with an agent one time, and he had 3 clients on my team, all at the same position, and I had to negotiate with him on 2. And he had like 4 guys that were going to be free in about a week. And he kept saying, "Want to talk about these guys?" So it happens every time.
And nothing can be done about it, and I don't think they're bothered by it. But, Pat, you alluded to it, that Ross got away with essentially being told that when I said I wanted to lose for money, it was a joke. Was that Raj giving him a pass there? Because, Pat, that out of this whole thing, that was the nastiest allegations that were being said, that a guy was tanking games. And in the release, it said there was proof that Flores told the truth, but they didn't buy that the owner really meant it. That's a fine line to walk, Pat.
Yeah. The first round draft pick, I think that solves part of that problem. A lot of us, Bill Cowher was surprised that the first round draft pick was involved in the penalty. So, it's arbitrary what they're going to do. $1.5 million. Okay. What's that mean? A third round pick? That sounds kind of appropriate, but the first round draft pick, that hit another note really. So I think they kind of solved the problem by dropping that first in there. That's a pretty serious penalty.
What's your thought on training camp fights? All right. I have to admit, and it's not just because it's the team I root for. I felt this way when I was a media member standing on the sidelines. I kind of like a training camp brawl.
Well, the head coaches always have to say they don't want them.
Right.
They have to yell at the players or scare them. They don't rarely ever discipline them. But I'd be more nervous if my team didn't have any fights.
Especially a team that's been losing and has a first-year head coach, and in theory, everybody's job but like 4 is up for grabs. So
if you have 4 or 5 camp battles going on, and you don't have a fight or 3, you start worrying. I mean, I'm serious about that. Like, it's hot. We're practicing in pads once in a while. You have a bad practice, and you're being told, you'll be out of here if you keep playing like that. And the agents are forever telling their guys, "You're on the bubble, dude. You got to do something to be noticed."
Well, that's what I was going to. Do you have a favorite story from all your camps that you were part of where there was a fight that maybe made a difference on a team that you worked for?
I remember Matt O'Dwyer, one of my favorite funny fights of all time. He had a reputation coming out of Northwestern as a very physical offensive guard, and we were looking for more physicality in the O-line. Paul Alexander was coaching him. You hear Paul on our show all the time. And we didn't have to tell him anything. He was going to be rumbling the second he got there. And he picks right away. He really just took a veteran defensive lineman, smashed him into the ground. The lineman got up and wanted to fight, so Matt just threw him on the ground again. Now the guy's embarrassed, and the veterans are kind of ribbing him. So he comes after Matt, and Matt doesn't even flinch. He goes right back to the spot he was in and gets in a 3-point stance and goes, "Come on, let's go again." And the guy's punching him in the helmet. That was my favorite. It didn't. He knew from the 1,000 fights he was in college, it's going to keep going. So why don't I just get back at my stance and take another rep? And the guy's just whacking at him. He didn't care.
He's Pat Kirwan. Weekday afternoons, he's moving the chains on NFL radio. He joins us Tuesdays and Fridays throughout the season, courtesy of Pinchers. From Tampa to Key West and a dozen locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, all the best. Stay safe, and we'll talk Friday.
Yep, and I will have a report for you guys from Tampa and Miami at the same time.
Awesome. Pat Kirwan joining us once again here on Miller and Moulton. Love the story.
They're always there. He always has one lining up in the 3-point stance, getting punched in the head.
Anything to make the team, though.
That's right. What was it? The story, the New England lineman that came out this week rear-ended a car on the way to practice so he didn't get the wrath of Belichick and
Right.
get cut?
He was going to be 10 minutes late. He knew he'd get cut if he showed up late, so he staged an accident, a real one, and stayed on the team, played 2 more years.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
The Arrows got knocked out.
Houston.
Yeah.
That'd be one other.
Looks like the Calgary Cowboys were one of the 6 teams, but they folded.
Oh, well, and then they took care of them because they
Well, that's
moved
expansion.
a few years later when
When
Atlanta
Atlanta
failed,
moved,
they
right.
took care of them.
The NHL originally wanted to take the New England Whalers, Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers. I'm amazed they took the Whale with Boston there.
Okay, so it was the Arrows, and who was the other one? Well,
Calgary, and then they went away. As I'm reading this, there was so many different proposals. It's hard to even figure out what it was. But basically, the NHL owners nixed it in 1977.
right, because they joined the league in 79, 80, right? Fall 79.
Right.
First.
I mean, some of the owners were pissed because their rosters got taken by WHA. So there's a lot. I mean, Harold Ballard was pissed because he lost a lot of his Maple Leafs roster to WHA teams. So they all had different reasons. The Bruins didn't like the New England team.
Right.
You know, I mean, as I'm reading through this quickly, it's like everybody had their own separate fights. I just didn't. I read that. I left it on there because there is not a lot on today's. I don't know
Hi
what
there. I'm working and I do a radio show and I've got 1 minute.
It's like, I don't know what you had today, but I had nothing for today in history. This was a Nixon resigned. We dropped the second atomic bomb. Some PGA. Some Beatles.
I get this email at 6:05 a.m. every day. So I have no idea what. I didn't look at it. I don't know if there's anything on it.
Yeah, I didn't have the Manson cult. I didn't have the Sharon Tate murders. I got the rest of them.
I got nothing in bubble history, so
Good.
Thank God.
yeah.
Gretzky.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I got Gretzky. I got Jerry died.
Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
I missed a big one yesterday. Watch the Throne came out. Jay-Z, Kanye West album.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be there in the annals of time.
Coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us on this Tuesday, the 9th of August, 2 days away from the Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit. Still time to sign up, floridasportsnetwork.com. It starts at 7 o'clock Thursday night. Doors open at 6, so to speak, and since you get food and drink as part of the whole shindig, so show up as early as 6.
Still time to sign up, but I would recommend signing up sooner than later. Spots are filling fast.
18 days away from week 0, Nebraska Northwestern, along with Vandy at Hawaii. We mentioned that because it's the last game of the day, so whatever losses you have early in the day, you can make up for it by betting Hawaii hard. Hard. Just saying. 23 days away from week 1 of the college football season, the 5-day extravaganza that kicks off with Pitt, West Virginia. And then 4 weeks Thursday, 30 days away are we from NFL games that count. Bills at Rams, 30 nights from tonight. First college football poll came out, Mark. Coaches poll, USA Today. Shocking.
This
top
poll,
of
I
it.
couldn't believe it when I heard it. Alabama was picked to finish first.
Ohio State second.
No,
Georgia
you're
third.
kidding me.
Hold on. There was one shocking development, however, with the poll. All right. There really was. Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia received all the first place votes. Except for one.
Some idiot voted Texas number 1 in their poll.
Right.
I mean, that.
This is a coach. Remember, this is
this
coach.
This coach, unless he's the coach of Texas, is an idiot.
This is a coach. Can't blame this on the idiot media. Texas, by the way, came in 18th in the preseason top 25. Kane 17th, oh, by the way.
Texas number 1.
So UCF, the leading Florida school in the receiving votes category.
They should probably be ranked, for the record.
if you were to play it out, they got the 32nd most votes in the country.
And they'll finish top 25 when the season's over. I don't know how high up they'll be.
USC at 15. It's a lot of hype.
It's a lot of hype.
Coming off what they did last year.
Absolutely. The one interesting thing is that Lincoln Riley thinks that their line is pretty good. Now, he did get the transfer quarterback that he brought with him. He got the transfer wide receiver, the best in the country. So they're definitely improved in those two spots.
So highest ranked non-power 5, I believe, is Cincinnati at 22. Houston snuck in at 25. But Texas with a first place vote. Biggest story of the day, Sports Business Journal reporting the Big Ten is leaving ESPN. First time in 40 years. This will be the last year that the four-letter network shows Big Ten football, and we're led to believe also basketball, which I do believe it's a loss for both parties to not have Big Ten basketball. I think it's a mistake. If, in fact, that part of the story is true, I believe it's a mistake by both the conference and the network. And I don't know if it was the conference that ultimately said, no, we're done with you, or if ESPN in response to saying, oh, you're not going to take us for football, well, then we ain't going to take you for basketball. This will hurt you. And I do believe it will hurt them.
I'm with you that it'll hurt both. I actually wouldn't be at all surprised if we find out that this was ESPN in their doing.
For the basketball part.
Yes.
Because it wasn't for football.
Oh, gosh, no.
Right.
But if at the end of the day they're getting pushed out for football,
right, that they just
at some
said,
point
fine.
you got to get pissed off at the other side and do something about it. I mean, this has become a little vengeful on all sides here. I would just think at some point that they said, fine, you're not gonna give us any of the football, then we're not giving you any basketball.
But to give you an idea, for the last 20, 30 years, CBS has had a deal with the Big Ten for basketball only. But, many times, where is Jim Nantz hosting the, Selection Sunday from? It was always from the Big Ten championship game.
Right, because they were always a Sunday tournament.
Right. They were the last game, and
right.
Then you went into Selection Sunday, and Nance would be there with Packer, and now it's with Grant Hill and what have you, and they would comment on the who's got the 1 seeds and all that. It's from the Big Ten tournament, or it was forever. So this type of deal can be done, but that's been the question today. Is this a loss for the Big Ten? Is this a gamble for the Big Ten? Is this a loss for ESPN?
And our audience does not care about ESPN anymore from a standpoint of, at least by our poll question. Is the Big Ten making a mistake by leaving ESPN? 86+% of you saying no right now.
That's 6 out of 7 of you saying the Big Ten's not making a mistake by leaving ESPN. The word is, according to John Oran in Sports Business Journal, it'll be big noon on Fox. It'll be a 3:30 game on CBS. It'll be prime time on NBC every Saturday. Now, Fox has been doing a noon 4 and 8 triple header since they got into the college football game. But usually the Big Ten game was on noon, except for Texas, Oklahoma, if they got the rights to that game. And then everything else, they showed a lot of Big Ten / Big 12 on the other time slots. I don't see ESPN then, with all this money that they now are saving, I don't see them turning to the Pac-12 and or the Big 12. I certainly don't see them turning to the Pac-12. I just don't.
And they've got a financial investment in the ACC. I mean, that's the other part of this. They have the ACC network.
Right.
The ACC properties are still strong, and you could argue they're stronger than what's in the Big 12 or the Pac-12 with what's remaining.
If anything, I think they will focus their attention on turning the ACC and going, hey, we're going to give your games better time slots.
You're going to see game day at ACC games a little bit more now.
Yes, you will.
When they don't have an SEC game to go to, they're going to go to the ACC, not the Big 10, not the Big 12. They may go to the Pac-12 occasionally, but I doubt it.
And for what it's worth, I think it will be interesting to see whether or not, remember a year ago, what was the alliance? Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12, but what was it all designed to do? It was designed to rein in the SEC, rein in its power, rein in its influence. Now, we know what the Big 10 did to the Pac-12. Thank you very much. But that feeling still very much exists within college sports. Well, now the Big 10 just took a huge step in trying to compartmentalize the SEC, and with it, ESPN. Okay, you guys got the Southeast region. We'll throw in Texas. Yeah, there's no doubt.
In fact, you might as well make a bid at NASCAR at the rate this is going, because you regionalized your network again.
Right. But there's a good chunk of the country that we're going to claim as ours until proven otherwise. And we got more alumni than you got. That's close when you start bringing in Texas into the equation, but okay. You want to knock our USC? Well, we'll see when Texas is good too. By the way,
now we have a UCLA problem.
Yeah, there's no
we
doubt.
would really like this money that they're going to get to
Right.
to perhaps get them to invest it in their football program.
Well, you know what? Maybe they'll come through and still be elite in basketball. Give us a little something, something. You know, it's why you guys have Kentucky, for goodness sakes. You know, maybe they'll be our Kentucky. So interesting. I'm fascinated by this. I never expected this type of response to this poll question.
I don't think you realize the disdain that a lot of our listeners have for ESPN.
Obviously. I also thought that it was something that was maybe 2-3 years ago. And that when the people that you didn't like got let go from that network, and clearly what was an agenda 3 to 5 years ago has been largely, not entirely, goodness knows, but largely thrown to the side. And very publicly, by the way.
Yes. I mean, that's the biggest. I mean, their top executives have came out and said
Right.
that we were too woke. It bothered people.
Yes.
We are not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Sports are sports.
Right. No.
They've gone out of their way to tell us the narrative that they don't want to do this anymore.
Now, they still have moments where they contradict that. You know, there's things that have happened politically in the last couple of months, and they've allowed those type of discussions to take place concerning Roe v. Wade specifically, in which they've allowed more of one side of the equation to be talked about than the other. Sage Steele has been very public. She is somebody who's conservative, okay, and how they've tried to limit her speech and lessened her role with the network. So it's not like they've consistently deviated from the track they were on 3 to 5 years ago.
But they're not on the same track that they were on 3 to 5 years ago.
Not consistently at all. And so I just, I don't care. I watch sports networks for sports. They start talking about something else, I'm gone. I don't hold it against them. I just leave. To me, it's like a dinner table conversation.
Yeah, all you and I are doing, where are the games at? What time do they start?
Yeah, really. It's all I care about. And, maybe it's because you and I left that network years ago in terms of the influence of the talking head stuff. I'm done with it. And you know me, I've been done with it for 15 years. I like the game days open. And I like Corso picking the stuff.
Yeah, right.
The headgear.
The first 15 minutes in the hat.
Yeah. And I can even go first 5. I can go first 5, last 10. You can make the show 8 hours in the middle. I do first 5 minutes, last 10.
And I don't know how many people are like me, but the Opens ticked me off the last couple of years. I root for a certain team. They were always part of the Open. They always got the mascot or a team there.
They took it out?
Oh, that for 2 years. Now, it happened around the time of the Nassar thing, and I wasn't surprised, but it's not been back in. I'm already wondering, what are these Opens, now that this has all happened, is there going to be a Big Ten team named Ohio State that's even in the Open?
Well, I think Ohio State will be.
That's what I just said. A Big Ten team not named Ohio State.
Right. I think Michigan will be.
Michigan will be. Penn State better be. I mean, come on.
Hey, I know. Don't have to yell. But
that's rich, David.
I know. But, ESPN is also, and all the networks do this, if they're financially involved, they promote that sport more than, they're not neutral. Let's be honest. There's too much of a business connection. You see it on the crawl all the time with ESPN. They will put the stuff that they cover. That's on the crawl. When in doubt.
It took them 5 years to give anybody else credit for breaking their own story.
Right. I mean, like, don't laugh. You couldn't get information on the USFL courtesy of ESPN this year. Couldn't get it. They showed a few highlights Saturday night on SportsCenter when the games were played. They had nothing else to show. But during the week on the crawl, the scores on the crawl, no. You go on your phone, ESPN.com, that doesn't exist. Does not exist on your phone. There's not a category that says USFL. There is one that says XFL, and they haven't even played a game.
They're in the XFL business.
Right. And so you wonder, so how far are Fox and ESPN going to take this? Fox not going to talk about the SEC at all? You're not going to talk about Alabama? I mean, for the next 4 years, we only have 4 teams in the playoff. There's still a good chance most years 2 of them are
going to be
coming from the
SEC.
South.
And the college football fans smart enough to want to hear about it. At least
Right.
I believe they are. And it's those agendas that I think turn fans off.
Agreed. Speaking of like pregame shows and what have you heard anything about Urban Meyer and Fox?
Well, you were the one that brought up that he was talking with them.
It was out there. Absolutely. And the feeling in the industry was they were bringing him back. It's August 9th. I haven't heard anything about him being officially brought back on the pregame show. Maybe I missed it. But, I mean, we're kind of cutting it close here, aren't we? I mean, is he just going to show up week 1 with nothing? I mean, hey, we like him. He's really good.
Just some takeout from his restaurant?
Right. I mean, hey, we like him. He's really good on television. He's a little radioactive right now, so we didn't want to let anyone know. All of a sudden, it's 10:01 a.m. on Saturday, September 3rd, and surprise!
And he's sitting next to Woodson again? I mean,
Right.
What the hell's going on here?
Going, hey, how you been? Good year last year. For you, not me.
Not at all for me. There wasn't anything good that happened. In fact, I should have never left.
In fact, Urban can joke, took the year off from this show and Ohio State lost that game. That's why I came back.
Miller and Moulton. A reminder, the Clutch Vodka Fantasy Football Summit, there are still spots available, be it about 8. Sign up now, floridasportsnetwork.com. Dr. Roto, Clutch Vodka, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe, Thursday night, 7 p.m. You will learn everything you need to know to win your fantasy football season. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit brought to you by Clutch Vodka. This Thursday, the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. We did this before the pandemic, and now we're doing it again. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, presented by Clutch Vodka.
We want you to win your fantasy football league, so we've recruited an expert just for you.
Dr. Roto, who you hear regularly Thursdays on Miller and Moulton during the season, will give you his tips, advice, and insight just days before your fantasy draft.
In addition to that, you'll get food and drink and all of your questions answered. You'll leave the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with the Dr. Roto cheat sheet so that you can draft a great team and follow his award-winning insight throughout the season.
So if you want to win, we'll see you August 11th, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe for dinner, drinks, and the doctor. Dr. Roto, that is.
Go to floridasportsnetwork.com to sign up today. The Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Thursday, August 11th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com, flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Oh, Raquan Smith wants a trade.
Who?
Raquan Smith from the Bears.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if I was there, I'd want to trade too. I'm telling you, even though they have a soft schedule, they have a chance to be on the clock. They are not good. Listen, you may hate them.
Adam Schefter tweeted out, I just think this is funny. Sorry, it's not really an oh my God, but HBO's Hard Knocks debuts tonight with Aiden Hutchinson, who turns 22 today, singing Michael Jackson's Billie Jean during team meeting. Producers claim it may be the most entertaining rookie singing moment in the show history.
Outstanding.
I'll probably get an HBO today.
Now, RCB, ESPN Plus shows 400 hockey games. And listen, I'm not pumping the four-letter network. Okay? I don't care. At all. But, I mean, they do set a pretty decent agenda. Another reason is that, as you guys are pointing out in text in the Twitch chat room, there's a lot of ESPN's coverage that people don't like. Didn't like their NASCAR coverage after the first go round where, they were the best. But, the second time around, that was panned, their NASCAR coverage. People don't like their NBA coverage in comparison to Turner.
Right.
People don't like their hockey coverage in comparison to Turner. People don't like
their college football coverage is not as good as CBS or Fox, I don't think.
Okay. But I think because of game day, that the feeling is that, if you asked people and you counted game day, the number one college football network is?
ESPN.
But also, if we ask the generic question, who does the best job of covering college football?
Again, I think the answer would be ESPN.
Right. And
because College Football Live, which no one's brought up, is a great show. Their post-game show. Well, I think they do a terrific job with that.
I agree.
With Reese and May and
right. And even though we like Fox's pregame show, game day's the best.
Now, I will say with Urban, they were closing the gap. Before Urban took the Jags job, they were giving you football. That was a football show.
Yes, it was.
30 seconds.
Now with Urban gone, I didn't like Stoops at all on it.
Fox likes their names. Fox loves their stars.
But think about it. Sunday countdown. No one's watching ESPN for the NFL.
It's done a little better the last couple of years, but
Here we
right.
go.
It's not. They do like
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour this Tuesday, 9th of August. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. The dominant topic on the show today, and it did not intend to be this dominant. In fact, 3+ hours ago when I don't want to say we had a meeting, but we actually talked to one another, which sometimes we just kind of grunt.
Mark was in a fired up mood this morning. He came in talking, chatty, happy, and I finally looked at him. I said, hey, how about a poll question? Which stunned him at 5:40.
Yeah, I mean, stunned me, like speechless, nearly fell down. I beat Felipe here today.
I thought about it, and because I was up early, and I've gone through a little different. My morning routine changed. I get the wife's coffee made because I only have enough for me for the show. There's no extra. There's not enough coffee to have one before I come in. So I've amped up the wife's coffee intake with her pot of coffee so that there's a cup for me to sit there, just my last hurrah before I come to work. I sit at the table by myself.
Your last hurrah.
Yeah, it's just a little time, little me time, getting myself ready to come in and put up with the likes of the two of you. And every once in a while, when it's 5:20, I'm like, if I left now, I'd beat them all there and freak them out.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would. But we were going to talk about Kevin Durant, not for NBA talk, but just what he did, which was he met with the owner and said, well, I'll stay, but you got to fire the head coach and the GM.
Fire my boss and my boss's boss, and I'll stay.
Right.
If not, I need to.
Right.
I need out of here. I need out of here now.
So, we were going to get into, have any of you ever had a meeting like this? Have you ever done anything like this? I didn't go that far, but I predicted. I've met with two owners in which I said, listen, this isn't going to work out. I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to work out. You can decide, but it's not going to work. And so sure enough, I was on the losing end of it, which I knew I would be.
And I've never been able to get to the ivory tower to have the meeting with the owner to get myself fired.
Well, I did have to get up at 4 a.m., get in the car by 5 and drive 3+ hours.
To have that meeting?
To have that meeting. I was his first meeting of the day at 8:30 in the morning. And it was in a different state. I mean, it was a long way, but I set up the meeting and I was there. Bells on.
Oh, you are a special breed, David.
What? Not only that, I did 11 o'clock news the night before. Didn't get to bed till about 1 a.m. I got like 3 hours sleep.
Oh, so you were perfect for that meeting.
I had about 70 ounces of Diet Coke in me. I was fired up. I was raring to go. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir. No, they suck, sir. Yes, they do. I mean, I came here first 250 miles. Just wanted to let you know how much they suck. They suck. Think anybody's watching your station for them? No, they're not. Now, I know what you're going to do. You're going to fire me, but I just wanted you to hear it from me first. They suck. You're making a mistake.
When they fired them after the fact.
Right.
Because they fired you, as you pointed out, but then they did fire them. You figure this is a draw in your world.
No, to me, that's a win.
Okay.
But no, ties go to the runner. No. I thought that was a win.
Okay. Did you reach back out to the boss after they fired the people you told them to and say, see, I told you?
No.
Did you want to?
There was one prominent person in management that they kept. And I ran into that person like a year later. All of us were gone and what have you. And their ratings had gone down like 10 points. And I ran into him and I said, told you. Well, you were a pain in the butt. I go, yes, I was. Yes, I was. But people watched. And that's the business you're in. But hey, you keep doing what you're doing. It's working out well for you.
So that's where I wanted to start. Believe it or not, it was me that wanted to start with the Kevin Durant telling the owner, fire my bosses.
And he went to London to meet with this guy. I think that's the equivalent of me driving the 3.5 hours.
100%.
Now, I didn't make the
cost
demand.
you as much in gas, you know what I mean?
Totally.
From a standpoint of what you had wealth-wise
Right, is him
at
going
this
to
point in
London.
your career. Right.
Right. And I was sleep deprived, the whole deal. Here was the best thing, though. I couldn't believe the owner did this. I mean, so I come back and I have lunch, and then I come in for my normal shift. I'm working 2 to midnight, doing the 6 and 11. And GM and the news director know what I just did.
Of course they do.
Well, you got to, I mean, but you know how small, a work environment can be.
Yes, I do.
So the whole building ends up finding out what I just did.
So you're a hero with a lot of people.
No. I mean, people like applaud. I walked in the newsroom and people applauded.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so that's how big a deal. I'm working.
Did you make it to the 6?
I mean, it's 6 more months.
That's impressive.
I even said to the news director, and I mean, we hated each other. And he called me into the office. He starts reaming me out. And I basically said, well, trust me, you're going down. Okay. You're going down. I'm telling you. If it's the last thing I do here, you're going down.
Well, at least you didn't make it personal.
No, not at all.
It's the last thing I do here. You're going down.
You're going down. Yep.
You were a son of a gun in your 20s.
He had the worst breath of any human being ever that I've come into in my life. Ever. I got so mad at him, all right, that I actually took mints out of my pocket and put them on his desk. Okay. And I go, you need these. All right. And walked out. That's how much we hated each other.
I don't know how you lasted the end of that day.
He couldn't fire me. No way. Couldn't do it. I got to remember, this is like market 174. We're getting a 63 rating and a 78 share. We are literally the #1 rated local newscast in the country.
Okay.
Now, granted, they had 55 of those rating points and 65 of those share points before I got there. But for whatever reason, people in the area like me. I added to the product.
And that's, as a sports guy, that's all you're doing. The newscast carries it, but can you give them the last 10 minutes or so where you keep the audience?
Yeah.
That's all your job
and it worked. I got them to Rather. Where's the CBS affiliate? I got them to Dan Rather because sports was last. So, and I told the news director the same thing. I mean, in the building, I acted like Kevin Durant. I did. I just went straight to their faces, told them off, the whole deal. I didn't do it to the owner. I just told them, I said, this is the landscape. I go, and if you're not going to take sides, I can tell you right now how this is going to play out. All right. And so I said to him, I go, and I'm fine with you taking sides. I literally said to him, I go, if this ends up being, if I drive back and am fired, I'm fine with that. But you needed to know the truth.
I did that once with the GM because we had a GM who was running a couple of hockey clubs when I was working in minor league hockey. He was not hands-on every day. And me and one other gentleman were busting our behinds for this team. When the GM was in town, the other 2 people in the office acted like they were the 2 hardest working people in the world. When he wasn't there, they weren't there. And it was bad. And it caused problems. And I went and laid it all out to the GM. Turns out I think the GM was sleeping with the one.
Didn't know that at the time.
Well,
would it have changed what you had said?
Not one word.
There you go.
Not one word.
That's my Mark Miller.
And the other person was flat out incompetent, but kissed butt better than I did. So the GM liked that person as well.
Can't believe people would kiss butt better than the 2 of us.
That was the time my contract wasn't renewed over the phone. That's when I went into work and they called me and said, we're not renewing your contract. I'm like, you couldn't have called me on Friday and let me know you weren't renewing my contract? So I had to show up here. I had to get dressed, come in on Monday morning for you to call me on the phone and say you don't have a job.
So they wanted to fire me on a Monday. And I was actually at a funeral. And I had left, I'd done the proper thing. I'd left the thing. I'm not going to be there. This thing, I got to take a personal day. And the station I was working at since this is the bonus hour, Kelly Burns worked there and Craig Wolf worked there. And Wolf was still working there. And so he had to fill in and do the sports that day because they had no one to do the sports. The weekend anchor literally drove in from out of town, did the weekend, and drove back. So he was back doing what he does Monday through Friday out of town. I was a one-man department. They had hired my replacement, unbeknownst to me. All right. He actually came in, apparently, and they told him, you must leave. Okay, you can't start today because he's got a personal day because of a death in the family, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm at a funeral. I get back late at night. I'm bummed, actually, and about the funeral and who died and everything that was going on. And I listen to the answering machine, and I've got like 8 messages, all from prominent people at the station. So I know they're going to fire me. And so then, I get to bed late, and this phone starts ringing at 7:30 in the morning. And about the third time I literally pick up the phone and hang it up. Pick up the phone and hang it up. And finally, the third time I grabbed the phone, and I assumed it was one or the other. And I basically said, listen here, you blankety blank. I'm not coming in early to get fired. I'll see you at lunch. Click.
You're a special kind of special.
Well, you're getting fired. What do you want? I got to be polite? They're waking me up intentionally. Now, the reason they wanted to fire me early was they wanted to bring the new guy in and, sign the papers, introducing everybody, what have you. Screw you. I'm coming in at lunch. Go wait in the parking lot. Not like it's going to take me long to empty this desk. Take about 6 minutes.
I did have an elevator ride up to get fired here. And I told the girl that came to get me, I said, I wonder if I'm getting fired today. And she's like, oh, no, don't say that. And I walked out of the office and looked at her. I winked. I said, see, told you.
Yep.
Watched her jaw bounce off the desk because I had hired her and we were friends. And that's the way things go. We have our certain charms. There's no doubt there.
The GM at one point, when you were talking about, if I had kissed butt a little bit more, the GM, after I went to see the owner, he called me in and he said, we could basically put Humpty Dumpty back together again, but you've got to play the game. And I looked right at him and I said, you can kiss my ass.
Not very good at playing the game, Miller
No.
and Moulton. I've gotten better as I've gotten older. Wish I'd have had some of this at a younger age. Might have changed things a little bit, but who knows? Part of our charm, David. Part of our charm.
So yes, it probably could have benefited the two of us a lot if we had that quality.
But we have Kevin Durant's quality, and that's why the story was so damn
Right.
appealing to me. He went right to the owner and said, get rid of my boss, get rid of my boss's boss. They are totally incompetent, and they are holding us back.
Besides, if we're going to kiss any fanny, we're going to do it to our wives, right? Why do it to a radio TV executive?
Miller and Moulton making bad decisions over and over again on the Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang
at SWFL Golf Carts. FLGolfCarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, FLGolfCarts.com. FLGolfCarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
What were you thinking?
Air kicked in about 9 today. It was a little late.
Good.
No kidding.
Starting to feel it. Because have you ever had a Celsius before, Mark?
I've had them all the time.
Oh my gosh, they make my whole body vibrate. I feel like I can gain 2 yards in the NFL right now. That's how I'm feeling. Woo.
My mom. Have I ever told you how much I love you?
Jimmy talked about it yesterday. Was the assistant coach at Oklahoma. Apparently, he probably dropped an N-bomb several times now, the accounts are. But yes, that is correct. Want to bet, Adam? I can already tell you that that's not what's going to happen. Just fine, Debbie, as far as we know.
What would your followers say if you hit this left? Oh, there we go. I don't know about that, guys. A little short, kind of like your second turn. What'd you guys think about that? Saying something in front of the Built a golf course just to miss this green.
That swing looks a little broken. Was it made in China?
Let's spend some more things in those pockets, boys. Let's go. Oh, dude, I love your work on the
Tell you what, they had to have some access to get on the course. Though.
Oh,
that the course was shut down that day.
Yeah. I mean, they just go around and rip people.
Yeah, but I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah. I mean,
no, they were all over it.
Yeah, but there were not 100 people on the course that day.
I mean, these are goal. I couldn't believe.
Coming back.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us on this Tuesday, the 9th of August. Roquan Smith has requested a trade from the Bears. I mean, everybody wants out of there. And there aren't many good ones left. I mean, at some point, they got to figure it out and keep the 2 or 3 players that, they still have left. Either they need to ship them or they need to figure out a way to keep them and have them, buy in.
It's getting late early, David, as they say, because the season hasn't even started. And they already lost a receiver banged up. Smith wants out. I think you've been on this since June, David, that this is a team that could be on the clock.
They're in really bad shape. I mean, they do not have anything I would consider a strength, to be honest. Their best defensive lineman they traded, their second best wants out. He's got a year left on his contract. Their best defensive player and best player arguably on the team is now just demanded a trade. New GM, new head coach. Is not a position on the offense that's even average. Maybe tight end, and I mean maybe. That's it. They're bad. This is a teardown. This is like what Joe Douglas inherited with the Jets. I hope Bears fans realize that they haven't been roster-wise as good as their record the last couple of years, believe it or not. And that this is going to be bad.
Always like to see how it's going to start for them, too. Now, they do have an easier first part of their schedule. They open at home for San Francisco. First start quarterback, so we don't know what happens there. Then they're at Green Bay. Home for Houston at the Giants. So they could literally be sitting there at 2-2 after 4 games. But this is not a good football team. And obviously with Smith wanting a trade, that leads me to think that he's realized how bad this team looks. He's been there a couple of years. He knows what it's supposed to look like, and then it's going in the wrong direction.
Another story that has developed in the last 15 minutes is Serena Williams is going to retire after the U.S. Open. She apparently did an interview with Vogue, and she's the cover story. And in the story, she said, I'm going to retire from the sport after the Open. I've never liked the word retirement. I've always preferred the word evolution, but I'm evolving away from tennis toward other things that are important to me. And some of those things include her venture capital firm and growing her family. So it's the hardest thing that I could ever imagine. I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I'm ready for what's next.
Wow. End of an era.
Well, not only that, her sister played her first match the other day in over a year, and she's a year plus older. And listen, you
and I have been talking about this.
You've been tongue in cheek with me because how many times have I said? Probably going back 5-7 years.
Every bit of 5 years, easily.
which
and
I said,
but it was an accurate statement
Right.
given her age.
right, that this could be the last time that we see. So, and she said, unfortunately, I wasn't ready to win Wimbledon this year, and I don't know if I will be ready to win New York, but I'm going to try, and the lead-up tournaments will be fun. So I think she won a first-round match.
Yes.
Was it yesterday or the
Yes.
day before or something like that? So she's going to play a couple hardcourt events and then play the Open. Let me tell you, the Open actually, I mean, it always does pretty well attendance-wise, but it's not the draw that it's been. This will do gangbusters. If she could make the second week of the Open, she will guarantee absolutely jam-packed sessions.
Whew. You can say that again.
If she can guarantee that,
If
right
she
now
can win some matches.
Right.
So she's likely going to finish one Grand Slam shy of the all-time record. Very different eras, though. I think she's the best ever. Some may say Martina. Some may say, Margaret Court Smith, because she's ultimately got 24 and Serena's going to end up with 23. But had the shot at the Grand Slam like 6 years ago, had 3 legs in the books, and was in the semifinals and won the first set 6-1 and was playing like the 100th ranked player in the world. And she just flat choked. Don't know if I'd ever seen Serena choke a big match before. She just couldn't keep the ball in the court, hit it literally all over the place. Didn't matter who was on the other end of the court. She just fell apart. That probably would have made her, without question, the greatest of all time. And then she got pregnant 5 years ago.
And she still may be the greatest of all time.
And
I don't just mean, you and I have said this, it may be tennis player.
Right. Yeah. Right.
This isn't an argument whether it's male or female.
Right.
She may be the greatest tennis player to have ever played.
She's got 1 more than Nadal right now, 2 more than Djokovic, all told.
I mean, has anyone ever quite bursted onto the scene at her age?
Well, that was what tennis was.
Yeah.
For many generations, was young players. The Tracy Austins of the world that
and even Chris Evert going all the way back. She did so as a teen.
I mean, Jennifer Capriati, who didn't have the career Serena, burst onto the scene. You had a lot of these young players, but she didn't only burst onto the scene, she stayed on the scene for 2 generations.
I mean, the Williams sisters, burst onto the scene in the late 90s. Bill Clinton was president. Venus made it to the final, I think, in 97 before, and I think Serena won the first Grand Slam in the family in 99. I mean, it's remarkable. They're both in their 40s now. So that news coming out today in the last 15 to 20 minutes. That's a biggie.
By the way, do you think the Bears will trade Smith? And I know there are 2 things at once.
No.
I don't either. I don't think they can.
No, I don't. I'm surprised they haven't traded the D lineman, whose name escapes me at the moment. Is it Ayers? Who had double-digit sacks last year and is 32 and is in the final year of a contract. I can't believe they haven't traded him. I mean, he's clearly not going to be part of their future when they think they'll be good again.
But you have to have some players.
I guess you could also make the case, let's bottom out.
That's the direction we've always said to go in. If you're going to rebuild it, rebuild it. That's why, if Smith's only got 1 more year, he doesn't want to stay. I know they can franchise him so they can have him for 3 more years. But that's a pretty hefty franchise tag when you start paying that position from a franchise standpoint.
And the other thing is that there are certain franchises in which certain positions mean more. And if you're a Chicago Bear, I mean, you could argue the sexiest position on their team historically is middle linebacker. Butkus, Singletary, Urlacher.
I don't even think it's arguable.
I didn't know if because of Walter Payton.
Want Walter Payton, Gale Sayers.
Right. But, Butkus, Singletary, Urlacher, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. And then now you're supposed to be the next guy. And you were a tackling machine in college. You're a sideline to sideline middle linebacker. There aren't a lot of you that play this game anymore. First off, there aren't a lot of teams that play 4-3 anymore. So, and he's like, get me out of here. Ouch. mean, you think about it, if you want to turn this around, if Justin Fields is the right answer and Roquan Smith's the right answer, well, there you go. That's our Peyton and Singletary going forward, if you know what I mean.
Miller and Moulton, good, bad, and ugly next on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Does listening to other suits count? I don't know what that means. It's doing well. Michigan Sports Network is doing well. Gotcha. Actually, Steffi was near the end when she met Andre. She won a Grand Slam the year she retired. She retired because of injury. She didn't retire because of Andre. And they're showing up people to suits.
I wonder what your mom would think of my car.
She'd probably like it because it's a really nice car for a woman. But best legs in tennis, Mello. Best legs in tennis. Adam, I don't know if you mean that in a good way.
Oh, that new program director is on it. He's got that Grease music fucking rocking on there. Because Olivia Newton-John's dead.
Physical. Grease was huge, though.
Oh, I had such a crush on Olivia Newton-John when I was in second grade.
Huge. I think I was 12. Wasn't it 78?
Yeah, I was second going into third grade.
Soundtrack. June of 78. For its time, it made $366 million at the box office. What do you think a ticket was back in 78?
Oh, God.
So you could
$4.
So you could times it by 3 or 4 right now. That'd be a $1.5 billion movie, right?
Yes. Exactly, Samuel. Exactly. There isn't a boy born between the years 1965 and 1969 that didn't spend 4 minutes alone thinking about those outfits. You kidding me?
She had been battling. I mean, she battled cancer off and on for 30 years. Interesting. One of the 3 people you'd want at dinner. Huh.
Ten seconds.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes until we're out of here on this Tuesday, the 9th of August. Sign up if you haven't already. We don't know how many spots will be available tomorrow at this time, if any, in the Clutch Vodka Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe. Dr. Roto, the headliner. And the plan is to begin right at 7. Doors open at 6. We're going to feed you after all. So if you bought a ticket, you can show up early. Eat, drink, be merry. Shoot the bull with us. And there you go. So you got that going. You know, we didn't bring up something today we should have.
Okay, what is that?
The passing of Olivia Newton-John yesterday.
I know it didn't make the show, and I don't know how.
Were you a fan?
Oh, good God, yes. I mean, I was in that was like the summer between either second and third grade or third and fourth grade when that movie came out for me. And I remember seeing it at the box office. I remember having a huge, huge, huge crush on Olivia Newton-John. It was the sexiest movie character I'd ever seen in my life.
Well, let's see. My guess is, because I think you were 8, because I think it was summer of 78, and you were born late summer.
Yeah.
So I think you would, because you were born in 69, right?
Right.
So you were 8 turning 9. So my guess is it was in between second and third for you. You were about to start third grade, or depending on where you, because I guess it debuted in June. So how long did your school year go?
No, I was out in June. It was a summer. I mean, I remember
Second grade ended, and then
Yeah.
Grease. Boom.
Yeah.
You're the one that I love.
Mm-hmm. That leather outfit. Oh,
A nice soundtrack too.
yeah,
It
and the leather
worked.
outfit.
I was 12. I remember the summer. It was everywhere.
Oh, I had the soundtrack.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
There you go.
Even Felipe knows.
Come on now.
She battled cancer off and on for 30 years. Passed away yesterday at the age of 73. But a star from like 78 through 81. All right. She had a bunch of hits musically.
And she also had the song Physical.
Don't laugh.
I know it was a
might-
huge hit.
Huge. It might have been.
Huge hit.
I think at the end of the year, because I think, was that 81? It might have been the number one song of 81. And people took it and twisted it and made it a lot of different things. There were certain radio stations that wouldn't play it even. They thought it was too sexy. All right.
It ended up being the number one song of 1982, and it is recognized by Billboard as the biggest hit of the 80s.
Yeah, which
Good God.
which that's hard to believe considering what Michael Jackson is about to unveil a year later, and U2 is going to explode in that decade and all that. That would be the
Yeah,
number
but
one song.
U2's hits weren't until the 80s.
Well, they said
Oh, yeah, late. Yeah, so, yeah. I don't. wow,
it's tough for
that's-
me to imagine that that's bigger than Billie Jean or Thriller or something
But
like
it's-
that. But it was a monster.
It was.
And that was pretty much it, though. I mean,
Yes.
her career was really 78 to 82. It's like we talk about the Hall of Fame player. Okay. The 5 great years. She had so many musical hits, and she had 3 movies. 2 of them worked. She did Xanadu in the middle.
Yeah, it didn't work.
No, it didn't.
Bad song, too.
Right.
But even I know that one. Let's get physical.
See?
Physical. I want to get.
And all the morning aerobics when that was big in our country. For,
boy, were they ever.
all right.
Oh,
40 years ago, all the outfits. Right. Absolutely.
yeah. I've watched the Goldbergs on ABC before. Yeah.
Time now for.
It's time for someone to
get
take
physical.
back this
Oh.
segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
1925 we start. It was the only time Babe Ruth was pinch hit for. Bobby Veach flies out. It was a bad idea then. It's a bad idea now. 36, Jesse Owens on the 4x100 gets his 4th gold medal at the Berlin Games. Today in 45, the United States dropped the second atomic bomb on Nagasaki. In 66, the Beatles released Revolver in the U.S. Richard Nixon resigns as president of the United States. And Gerald Ford is sworn in to be the 38th president today in 1974. This wouldn't happen for a couple more years, but in 77, the NHL refuses the merger of 6 WHA clubs. It would end up being 4 a couple of years later.
What does the WHA stand for?
World Hockey Association.
No, my bad.
1981 at the Atlanta Athletic Club, Larry Nelson beats Fuzzy by 4 for the PGA Championship. And in 87, Larry Nelson beats Lanny Watkins for the PGA.
Don't get me going on Larry Nelson. All right. Won 3 majors, served this country in the armed forces, basically taught himself the game with the help of a club pro. All right. And
was a really good player for that whole decade of the 80s.
his Ryder Cup record, he's 4-0 in singles. All right. Beat Seve, I believe, head-to-head in singles. I mean, World Golf Hall of Famer, won the PGA twice, and the PGA of America runs the Ryder Cup, and they passed him over for Ryder Cup captain. It's an absolute disgrace.
Today in 88, the Edmonton Oilers trade Wayne Gretzky to the LA Kings.
Woo! Woo!
Wasn't that like one of the worst days in Canadian history?
Yes,
Yes.
Canadians cried.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Like
they
when you
did.
see all the videos of, we saw something yesterday of a Cowboys game where they lost and you're seeing Cowboys fans cry. No, Canadians were crying. Yeah, a nation was in mourning when that happened.
Well, and at first, his American actress wife was being blamed.
Yes. They were referring to her,
As
Janet
Yoko.
Jones.
Janet Jones. They were
As
calling her Yoko. Oh no, she was getting the blame. He got sent to Los Angeles. He did this for her career, Hollywood, the whole deal. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Wow.
But initially, she was getting blamed.
Today in 92, Oscar De La Hoya wins gold in Barcelona. Today in 95, Jerry Garcia died at the age of 53. 2012, Usain Bolt wins the 200 to become the first to win the 100-200 double in back-to-back Olympic Games.
Fastest man ever.
2016, Michael Phelps wins his 20th gold medal, and doing so in the 200-meter butterfly.
Oh, stop it already. Just...
And 2 years ago today, Colin Morikawa, with the final round 64, wins the PGA.
Do you remember when they got Phelps to do the pose with all his gold medals? He had a shirt off, and he had finally competed in his last Olympics, and they put all the gold on him. I don't think they added the silver and the bronze, of which combined, I think he only had like 5 of them. But it's just a ridiculous photo.
As well it should be.
Right.
Those born today that are no longer with us. Baseball manager Ralph Houck. Heavyweighter, boxer Ken Norton. Great Miami Dolphin Jim Kick. Hot Rod Williams and Whitney Houston. Those that are celebrating their birthdays today, Bob Cousy is 94 years old today. Rod Laver is 84 years old today. Actor Sam Elliott is 78. Rapper Curtis Blow is 63. Brett Hall is 58. Dion's 55. Rod Brindamore, 52. Jimmy King is 49. Derek Fisher, 48. Jamarcus Russell's 37 years old today. Eli Apple is 27, and Irv Smith, the tight end from the Vikings, is 24.
That's Coach Prime for you, Mark.
No, it's Dion for me.
Yeah. It's prime time.
And if he were here, I'd either call him Prime or Dion.
I'd be like, it's Coach Prime. It's Coach Prime.
Not to me.
That's pretty good, by the way. All right. I would look
Don't
right at
encourage him.
No, I know. But come on, when he gets one, right.
In the ballpark?
Yeah. You got to just say a little something for the effort there. So Cousy last week, when Bill Russell died, was interviewed and said, and I quote, "And I have a feeling I'll be seeing him shortly."
94 years old. Wow.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
I've got Mark Mulhaney for the good today. It was a couple of years ago that he was diagnosed with severe plastic anemia, which is an incredibly rare disease. Apparently, the chances of getting it are about 1 in 1 million. And it's not something you want to get. But thanks to a bone marrow donor from Poland, he survived. And now is on a journey traveling to the 4 corners of the U.S. on his motorcycle, from Key West to Maine to Washington to SoCal, all to raise money and awareness for bone marrow donations and raise funds for the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa. Always amazed at people who are dealt this lousy hand of cards can end up doing so many great things for it. And he is certainly one of them. For the bad, we go to North Fort Myers, where things weren't going so well for Nicole Sosa. Apparently, she became upset about a heated relationship issues, David. So she took a gasoline-soaked T-shirt, torched it, and threw it at the back door of a home over relationship issues.
That's like a Molotov. Almost.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
She fled the scene before returning shortly thereafter, where she could be greeted by the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and she'll spend a little time in the pokey trying to sort things out.
The pokey. I love it.
Finally, the ugly. We go from Fort Myers to Naples, where Craig Lum was trying to set cars on fire, and he set multiple cars on fire, claiming to do so to get to the devil. A victim of one of the car burnings woke up smelling smoke around midnight on Sunday. We ran outside. He saw a car on fire, tried to put it out, and then called police, where they noticed Craig Lamb trying to start other cars on fire again to get to the devil. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, August the 9th, 2022.
By the way, quite a debate going on locally, never mind nationally, about the announcement with Serena going to retire after the U.S. Open and greatest female athlete, greatest American female athlete of all time. And
Yes.
okay. And I just said there aren't many that you can even throw into the argument in which people would go, oh, well, okay, that's a good one. To me, it'd have to be like an Olympian. Jackie Joyner-Kersee was mentioned, Wilma Rudolph. You go all the way back to Babe Dietrich and Zaharias. But I mean, literally, that might be the Mount Rushmore of U.S. female athletes right there. This is a BFD.
Yes.
So Serena in a Vogue cover story announcing that after the U.S. Open, she's done. So there you have it. Got to wait another couple days for football. But, got one afternoon baseball game, White Sox Royals, the first of two. Everybody's in action. Braves are in Boston, which is interesting. Braves just got their butts handed to them in New York, and they got to get ready to play the Mets for 4 more next week in Atlanta. Meanwhile, Boston's 2 games below 500, and they only got about 50 games left. I mean, they got to turn this thing around like now.
Phillies hosting the Marlins. Marlins have been playing lousy. This is another opportunity for the Phillies to keep on keeping on.
Rays and Milwaukee. Those two teams have identical records. Rays are a playoff team. Brewers are out right now. They're 2 behind the Phillies and Cardinals for both the division lead and the final wild card. Although Phillies are now ahead of the Padres. Mark, I think with the Padres losing last night in 5 in a row, I think Milwaukee may only be a game behind San Diego. Something like that. I think they're 2 back of San Diego, but only 1 in the loss column.
They're 1 back of San Diego. But it's screwy because they've played so many fewer games, have the Brewers.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, Padres have played 4 more, so they actually have 1 less loss. Gotcha. Being interesting, Twins are in L.A. for the Dodgers.
Well, it's a great opportunity for the White Sox that are playing the Royals right now.
And the Guardians, for that matter, who are in Detroit to play the Tigers.
Right.
Is this the week that somebody catches and or passes the Twins? Or the Dodgers won 7-8 in a row, something like that. I think they swept the week last week.
I need my 20s to hold on. It's my AL team.
Who?
The Twins.
Well, I've been saying for a month, and I hope I'm proven wrong because I want them to win the Central, but when they didn't extend their lead against the Guardians and the White Sox, when those teams were scuffling just to be 500, and I wondered, man, is this going to come back and haunt them?
The only thing that the Twins have going for them is that they actually improved their roster at the deadline, and the White Sox and Guardians did not. So will the moves that the Twins make pay off for the remainder of the season? But you mentioned it. The Dodgers have won 8 in a row, and Minnesota out to take on the Dodgers right now. This is a great chance for both Chicago and Cleveland to take a bite out of them and get to first place in that division.
And, of course, we all knew that the Orioles-Blue Jay series would be a key series on August 9th.
Love me some wild card hunts.
I do think the extra team in each league's working. I mean, it's brought in a bunch of teams in the American League. I mean, really, it brings in Milwaukee right now in the National League, but that's okay.
Well, the Giants are 1 game beneath 500. They're still not technically out of it.
Seth Everett will join us tomorrow. Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Where else but the Florida Sports Network? We did this before the pandemic, and now we're